Okay, seeing no comments, we will move to our presentation portion. Logan Taggart tonight is ill, so he will not be here, so we will move to the presentations from the Boy Scouts. Have any of our Boy Scouts here? Do you want to be the Boy Scout?
Come up to the mic.
You want me to postpone it for a minute? Come back to it? Sure. Okay, our first action item, F1, Matt Pennington. Is Matt here yet?
Technically, we need to postpone 6 and 7
Okay.
of the consent agenda.
Oh, because
I moved
Yeah.
to postpone 6 and 7.
Oh, I thought he included that in his
I
motion.
included removing them from the approval, but I guess we need to officially postpone them as well.
Okay.
So Commissioner
So
Fackrell's
I
made that
moved that
motion.
we postpone both 6 and 7
I'll second.
of the consent agenda, sorry.
Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Fackrell and a second by Commissioner Blocker. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And Matt's not here yet.
Okay, so we will postpone action item F1 for the moment, and now F2, Ashley Fusselman. We'll turn the time over to Ashley.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak briefly about safety in our schools. My name is Ashley Fusselman, and I have 4 children in Morgan schools, elementary, middle school, and the high school. I would like to highlight a need that I believe deserves the Commission's support. Some background. 2 years ago, I fought to get the doors locked at our schools during school hours. It took the help of the community and school principals to get this done. Now at least someone with bad intent can't just walk in. Also, the Morgan County Sheriff's Office has been able to have school resource officers at the high school and Mountain Green Middle School. However, the elementary schools and Morgan Middle School lack SROs, an issue that the Commission could help resolve. According to the National Center for Education Statistics, the school year 2021 to 2022 saw a record total of gun incidents in U.S. schools. 327 cases, including all incidents where a gun was brandished or fired, or a bullet hit school property. Shootings happen before and after school, during morning classes, afternoon classes, lunch times, and other times. They occur in classrooms, parking lots, playgrounds, lobbies, administrative offices, sports fields, on school buses, anywhere you might think of. We should not be complacent and think these things can't or won't happen here. Just recently, a student was stabbed at a school in Weber County. Also in Weber County, 3 years ago, a teenage girl was arrested for plotting to blow up her school with explosive materials she had collected. Incidents are planned, some are accidental, others are cases of domestic violence. In September of 2022, at a school in Bernal, an SRO got a tip from a student about a teen planning to shoot his ex-girlfriend. The officers stopped the teen and found a loaded pistol in his backpack. SROs are trained in de-escalation and can stop some incidents before they become dangerous. They can also prevent other forms of school violence, such as physical attacks that don't involve weapons or threats. Just seeing the sheriff's truck outside of Mountain Green Middle School and Morgan High School is a deterrent. Someone is less likely to target a school with an officer present. But our elementary schools and Morgan Middle School don't have this protection. Having an SRO will possibly prevent violent activity or provide a quicker response if something does happen. It also would give peace of mind to parents knowing an officer is there. I appreciate your attention on this vital matter.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. Appreciate your remarks. Honorable Sheriff Corey Stark.
All right, the other day you come to my office and asked me about why we're not releasing some of the videos that have sensitive information in it. I think Kate handed out some stuff for you there. This is the cost of that redaction software. It comes to about 35,000 a year, with the replacement of new equipment every 2.5 years, which is included in that 35,000.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
What is redacted video?
Juveniles' names or victims' information we can't have on a body cam. We can't have that information on body cam. So when people come in, I think in the last month or two, I think we've had to deny 4 or 5 body cams because it holds information of either juveniles or victims, and that's why you end up getting the complaint that why we're not releasing information. I can't release that information. I currently can't redact that information, and I can't erase that information.
Okay, so you're saying that this then would take care of that
Yes,
on the video so that way they cannot see it?
yes. It'll blur out faces and bleep names.
So currently, without the $35,000 software, we're just saying we can't
We can't do it.
we can't release that information.
Yes,
Does this replace the video systems you currently have in car?
yes.
Okay. And what are we spending currently on that? I mean, I assume
So
there's-
when we originally started it for all 15 cars, it was we started out with 128,000, and that means it's our equipment. And then about every 4 to 5 years, we have to replace one because it goes bad or breaks down on us. So we have to end up replacing one, which comes to about $8,500 for one unit.
So this software is compatible with
This will be brand new.
this is brand new.
Yes,
it replaces the cameras and everything, right?
it replaces
The
our
whole
body
system.
cams. It replaces our car cameras, and then every 2.5 years they come and replace body cams and car cameras.
But instead of 8,500 a year, it's 35,000 a year. And did we get multiple bids? I assume there's more than one company that does this, or is this
There's only one.
there's? Okay.
So you talked to our current provider, and
Motorola.
They don't have any.
They don't have that information.
Are most counties in Utah doing this?
There's about half counties are doing it. But like I said, if you don't want to redact it, I'm fine with keeping the system the way we have it. Matt just asked me to look into this, so I went out and looked into it.
Can I ask you a question, Garrett? I
Yes.
guess my only concern is that it was my situation and I wanted something to prove my innocence. How would I do that? How would I do that if a video camera showed that an officer was out of line,
So, and it depends on the information that's on there. There's a case right now where our IT director was able to redact it just because he has the knowledge of how to do that, but it ended up costing the requester an extra $240, and I don't think that's a good policy because our IT director doesn't have time to just redact all day. It took quite a bit of time, which made the requester even more angry because he has his other duties to fulfill. And so I think the other thought process, and I wish I would have talked to you about it beforehand, but just dealing with this other complainant, which I think you know who it is, there could be an opportunity for the county to contract with third-party people, but it would have to be someone who has gone through background, because we don't want the private information that they're redacting to be just in anyone's hand either. And so those are the considerations that come to my mind, and I don't know if there are third parties that do something like that on a contractual basis, but I would still have to worry about that confidential information or protected information being released to even a third party without some background check or some agreements, confidentiality agreements, and so something like that.
So this equipment allows you to redact it?
No,
Who does it? These guys do it?
LensLock, yes, through the FBI, and you see just LensLock
Okay.
will do it. They're licensed to do that.
So it isn't us redacting it, it's a third party?
Yes, and they
Okay.
guarantee they can have it back to us within 24 hours.
Oh.
But UCJIS is the Utah Criminal Justice, whatever. I can't remember what it all stands for, but they have the background check. They go through the BCI. So myself, all the sheriff's office, IT, they all have to have this UCGIS certification and training every year to deal with this protected information so that we're not disclosing it. And so that would be, if there was a third party doing it like this, but not necessarily with this software, they would still be held to that same standard and have to go through the BCI, UCGIS
And that being
training
said,
and checks.
I also think it's better that a third party like this, like Linslock does it, rather than me doing it. That
Sure.
way
Yeah.
somebody's not saying
Accusing
that yes.
us of redacting things that
shouldn't
That
be
aren't
done.
protected.
correct. I guess my own feeling is I think it might be important if I was a police officer and I knew someone could request the way I transact with somebody, I might act a little differently. I might be a little bit more careful in the way I treat the matter. So we can discuss it and bring it back for decision and stuff before the commission, but that was just my 2 cents. Anybody else have a thought?
This is a 5-year contract,
Yeah, they do it for 5.5 years.
so then you have to renew
9
it.
months
Have to renew
free.
it.
Oh, nice.
Can you just have them renew the 9-month free portion?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, how often are people requesting video?
All the time.
All the time?
Like I
It's
said, I
not
think
often that we deny it, though.
Correct.
Because it's,
I think
and
in the last month we've only had 4 or 5 that we've had to deny, but we haven't had to deny any for a long time.
But to Chair Wilson's point, I think all of our deputies understand that anything that happens on body cam can be requested. It's only in the rare circumstances that it's denied. If there's, a minor in the video, there's something that's protected. Those are the only reasons. So it's very rare that it gets denied. It's not all the time, and it's not like a deputy can just say some protected information that's unrelated. That wouldn't be a good faith. That's a bad faith way of just saying, oh, well, I want this one to be denied, so I'm going to make sure I put
So
something
very
protected
seldom we
on
deny it.
That's
Correct.
accurate.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many
And
times a year do you
deputies
think?
don't have any say on the denial.
How many times would you say a year we deny it?
Yearly,
Yeah.
12 to 14.
Well, that's pretty expensive.
And one is because of a juvenile. What are the other
Victim,
victim? Those two?
they're the main ones.
Okay. All right. Thanks for getting all that.
Yeah, you betcha.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Do you want to introduce Matt?
This is Matt Pennington. He's with the state. He's with DPS.
Commission, thanks for having me. Matt Pennington, State Security Chief with Department of Public Safety. So Sheriff Starks asked me to come and speak about their request for school resource officers to follow the implementation or the guardian portion of what's known as HB 84 from last year, the school safety amendments. So the big lift on that, there's a lot of obviously security measures in place at a LEA level or the school district level. The district and the sheriff's office have been phenomenal in their response of being proactive for implementation. In regards to the guardian section, just so you understand what complies with the law, there's 3 options. The school resource officer, which we would always say is the best option with the most capable individual in the school. They're law enforcement, they're trained by the law enforcement agency, ongoing training, etc., liability, things like that. They could certainly partner with private armed security. There is a training measure that's required for that, or they can go with a school employee that volunteers to be a civilian guardian, and they would go through some training. So with the school district, I believe Sheriff is offering a split costing model. Is that correct? That's pretty standard, what we're seeing with districts and law enforcement agencies around the state. I certainly think if you have the opportunity to get an additional deputy up here in Morgan to cover the school for essentially half price, that would behoove you to do so. That would be our recommendation as best practice. But in full transparency, there are other options, but those also can be expensive when it comes to do they act accordingly or not. So happy to take any questions you guys might have.
What is the cost of an SRO?
So-
That would be up to.
Sorry, for one here, it's
About
180,000. So that's what we charge the school
Salary,
right now. is
benefits.
We pay half
90.
90,
For one.
and we want 2.
Or
I'm not sure what you're
required
requesting.
to have
That'd be-
2 more by the
Okay, yeah.
HB 84. Where
If
are we
you're-
at with that grant?
If you're putting one in every school.
Well, not even one in every school. That's
They are allowing us to share one, aren't they, Corey?
So
Share
I know
one
your
between
high
two
school and middle school and elementary are within like
They're
a stone's
across
throw.
the street
You
from
could do
each
that
other.
with one and comply with the law. We've set administrative rule that refers to that as an adjacent campus. So they can cover one, and then you would need one. You have one at Mountain Green Middle. You would need one at the elementary school, right?
So the immediate need is 1,
Well, sounds like,
potentially 2
2
if
currently?
you want to share.
We have 2 now.
yeah, so immediate need would be one to comply fully with HB 84. And sorry, I missed a question. Somebody asked.
where are we at with the grants? We've applied twice.
So we don't, are you talking about the school district, or are you
Schools
talking
applied
about?
twice and the county has applied twice, but then we hear crickets on the, not saying it's an unfunded mandate, but it's an unfunded.
Yeah, so, well, there's funding. The grant's being run by State Board of Education. So if they've recently submitted for that, they'll go through that process shortly. If you're talking about federal grants through like COPS or BJA, then we don't deal with any of that. That's a federal.
Who do we apply through, Corey? BGA? Yeah.
So the state board funding, which is the $100 million the state provided last year, that is in process. So they just close that application mid-January, and they'll start going through that district by district or LEA by LEA.
And is that going to be ongoing funding, or it's just it's a little frustrating,
Yeah.
you know, for us to be mandated to do things which we know are important and want to protect our kids, and then we're told pay for it, you know. So
Sure. Yeah, and everyone's in the same boat. And just so you know, I'm not a politician. I'm not making the laws. I'm just trying to get them implemented. That is the conversation this year up on the Hill, is what does ongoing funding for the school safety look like? There's a substitute that just hit today. There is a funding mechanism that deals with schools and WPU, which is also a giant topic of conversation. But that is in this year's version of the bill. There's also an additional, I think, $100 million that I just saw in the fiscal note that would be same type of awarding through a grant process based on gaps and whatever's going on. However, I will say this, having worked at a local level for 19 of my 20 years, I would caution you on funding allocations on one-time money or a grant fund.
Sure.
If you're going to fund it, just fund it.
You know, I think one of the concerns when it comes to funding, and you said, everybody's in the same boat, I disagree a little bit. For a small county, it's a big lift for us. $180,000 times 2 officers, that's $360,000. That's 10% of our property tax revenue for the year.
Sure.
So in order to make that happen, if we were to fund all of it, we'd have to do a 10% general fund property tax increase across the entire county. And we'd have residents in here with their pitchforks. I'm not opposed to it, and I actually think it's a good thing and it's something we should fund. The reason I bring that up is because there are people in this room that support it, and if we have to do a property tax increase to make it happen, I hope that they're the first in line to come in here and say, we support this increase because we want these officers in our schools. Because all too often, people come in and say, hey, we want this, and then when it comes to actually paying for it, nobody shows up to support it. So I guess that's what I'm saying to some of them in the back, that I hope you, and I think you will, and I appreciate that. I think it's something we should look at doing. I just bring that up because it's a big lift. That much money is a lot of money for a county with a small budget like ours.
Yeah, understandable. And again, you have a split costing model, I believe, with the district. Now, granted, they're taxing the same people, so where the tax comes
Yeah,
from. is
exactly.
sort of-
So whether it's half from us and half from them, you're still looking at probably a little bump in your property taxes. to make
unless
it
they
happen.
are sitting on money. I don't know what their financial status is, but
Do you know of any school districts that are paying more than half towards their SROs?
that's not common. I couldn't say off the top of my head. The common model that we hear throughout the state is a split cost.
So I teach in Granite District, and they have their own police department, and they're still sharing with West Valley, Unified. And as a teacher in the high schools down in Granite, I mean, it's a whole different ballgame than up here. When you watch a good SRO and you watch how they build that relationship with those kids, those kids will reach out to that officer. They've built that, it's not just the cops are here to get me in trouble. They build a relationship, and I mean, in our little community, I think that's kind of huge, just to feel comfortable to reach out to that officer. I know my son, when he was in high school, he built a great relationship with the SRO. I mean, had his phone number. If he had problems, he'd call, and it's a big ask. It's a big thing, but I think it needs to be one of our priorities to make sure that we have a good SRO in the schools, supporting our kids, make sure that they're safe, but also a place where they can turn to where they can go and get the help when they need it. Because I know I've talked to Corey about some different things. It's like, I'm glad that's you and not me, having to talk to those kids. And I've got my own problems with my own high school students that I just shake my head at. But to be that officer, I think I can see where the state's coming from. I know Granite, that was a massive thing for them, even with their own department, to be like, you want us to put one in every, we got 8 high schools and 30-something, 40-something elementary schools. I mean, that's a massive, ask for any district. And then you come to our little county, and it's a huge thing. But I'm with Mike. I think it's something that hopefully the community will get behind. If we've got to raise the rates a little bit, we're looking at our kids, and I think it's a huge thing.
Yeah, and thanks, Mr. Vice Chair, on that. So just a couple comments on that. There's a couple of things when you look at really a planned active attack, right? So youth involvement, early reporting, that's best case scenario. So whether that's adult to student ratio, whether that's an officer, whether that's teachers, regardless, adult to student ratio helps. Having essentially a culture of youth involvement and safety and reporting, Safe UT, all these different measures that are available is really important. The relationship with the SRO is really important if they can establish that, and they have, officer friendly, quote unquote, that they can go to and trust in disclosing information, even sometimes anonymously. The other thing you look at in an active attack is there's 2 big deterrents: an armed confrontation or a locked door. So that's where the Guardian program comes in. I would argue the most capable of dealing with the armed confrontation is a law enforcement officer trained to do so, versus, as you're probably hearing over at Granite, the civilian Guardian is an option. But I can tell you, as that training rolls out throughout the state, that is a pretty big learning curve. So
I'd like to echo what Commissioner Nickerson said about our children interacting with the police officers. When I was young, I was taught you respect the law, the police officers. We weren't even allowed to call you guys cops, right? You had to be a police officer. I think it'll teach our children to look up to the law and to respect it, and like you said, develop that relationship and that trust, once again, which could carry them long into their adulthood.
And there are some ancillary benefits to adding 2 additional deputies in your county. Obviously, school's in session 9 months of the year. Those additional months, which are the summertime, which I would imagine, just like everywhere else in the mountain area of Utah, gets busy with recreation at Echo. You guys cover. Obviously, you did deal with East Canyon, and all the other camping and areas you're dealing with. I mean, you have additional resources that can help out with manpower there as well. So there is an ancillary benefit to adding them outside of complying with the school safety measures.
Isn't there also another way that we can fund it through, I don't remember which one it is, but there's a sales tax that we could implement that could possibly take care of it too. And that's something we have to research a little bit more. But there is something out there we can do. It's one of those 22, I don't know if you remember.
You're talking about the recreation one?
Well, there's the recreation, but there's another one that could be used for safety. I'll have to research and let you know.
Is there a
That's an option.
timeline that we need the SROs by?
No, I'm just trying to get this on everybody's top of their minds, trying to, if we're going to implement this in 2025 school year coming up, I've got to send some SROs to the DARE program, the NOVA program, which comes in the middle of
Comes in the middle of what?
summer.
Okay.
Comes at the end of July. We should get on top of it a little bit.
Corey, in your discussions with the school district, are they interested in partnering at the same 50-50 rate at this point?
Yes, they are.
Okay. That's good to know.
Anything else?
I just want to comment on Ashley. I think when you spoke on this a couple years ago, my favorite quote of yours was that if we had, because there's 3,000 students in our school, if we had an event with 3,000 students, or just 3,000 people, we wouldn't just have 2 people protecting that event. And we have an event 193 days out of the year with 3,000, and that definitely rang home to me. So thank you for doing all that research.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our fire chief Boyd are you here,
He
Boyd?
was
There you are.
waiting on his speaker. Oh, there you are.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thanks for having us. We're here to discuss and have a decision on a master agreement between Morgan County and LIV, Life Safety Inspection Vault. As you know, the state of Utah, as well as Morgan County, has adopted the International Fire Code as part of its safety standards. And under IFC Section 901.6, these regulations mandate regular inspections and maintenance of life safety equipment in all the businesses. That includes the county and the city. The life safety equipment that we're referring to are fire extinguishers, automatic sprinkler systems, fire alarms, fire exits. These need to be annually inspected. LIV is a platform that allows us to track the life safety equipment for their annual inspections and any deficiencies they may have that we would need to follow up on. This contract comes at no cost to the county at all. Today I've asked the president of LIV, Cole Harding, to come on up and he can discuss on kind of how things work, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Thanks, chief.
Yeah, my name is Cole Harding. I am founder and president of LIV, or Life Safety Inspection Vault. Excuse me, I've been sick lately, just getting over a cold, so if you can't hear me, just ask me the questions or I can repeat myself. So how it works is the inspection companies go into these third-party businesses, all your guys' local businesses. They inspect these systems, and they're required to submit these reports to departments, fire departments, that oversee these areas. Well, if they don't have a tracking tool in place, these inspection companies will fax them, email them, drop off paper copies, or just not submit them at all and not make the fire department aware. The way our tool works is all the companies submit them through our portal, and it essentially builds a database of commercial buildings. So your fire department at any time can log in and see what businesses are past due, what businesses are compliant or deficient. There's a lot of important information in there that's constantly being gathered, like contact information, stuff like that. Comes at no cost to you guys. We charge the inspection companies a fee every time they upload, and that way if they only come into your jurisdiction one time and do minimal work, they'll have minimal charges versus your companies that do majority work. Any questions for me?
I like the no cost to us part.
Absolutely.
So there's always a cost, but I mean, maybe not directly to us. What about the business owners?
So we charge the inspection companies. After we charge those inspection companies, we've had some inspection companies tell us that they actually get more inspections, so they don't pass on a fee. Some inspection companies do pass the fee on. They'll build it into their cost of service. We can't control that. What we do know is, one, it'll help with ISO rating, which will reduce taxes and cost, reduce false alarm call-outs, not rolling the trucks as much, and even business owners. You know, I've seen restaurants get about $1,000 off a year of their annual premium just by having a fire alarm and fire sprinkler and maintaining it. So it's just educational there.
So you're saying,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, so you're saying the businesses are gonna pay this, or the inspection companies, do they collect from the businesses?
Inspection companies is who we will collect the
But
fee
they don't
from.
collect it from the businesses. So they don't come over to your SOS and find out, they don't go to him and say, hey, you owe me $15 for this.
If they do
inspection.
If they do like charge the business, it'll be part of their fees, their service charge. We can't control that.
So the third
Help
party,
me.
the business hires the third party to come do the inspection, right? And the inspector charges a fee, whatever that may be. Maybe it's $50, maybe it's $200, I don't know. He's saying they will typically build whatever the cost, this $15 is what he charges them into their fee. So they may charge SOS or whoever, $100 for the inspection, and then they're gonna pay 15 of that to this organization when they file the paperwork. And then we're going to have reporting that's going to show us everybody who's been inspected and all the data. When we do our ISO, excuse me, we'll be able to pull that reporting out and say, here's all the businesses in Morgan that have been inspected, here's when they were inspected, here's all the paperwork on. So
I will say this as well. We've seen a lot of jurisdictions, if they don't have Live adopted, their businesses, some of them were still being charged that cost of service from the inspection companies. So today we serve about 90% of the state of Utah in the departments here. And so like Murray came to us and they said, we are still getting some businesses that are paying that higher fee now because of that third party reporting is what they call our type of service.
So in Kaysville, the fire department comes and checks on me every year. And so is that so you don't have to go do this?
Can you use the mic, Boyd?
So the way we do it now is like the fire marshal would have to go to all the businesses and check in himself. He doesn't have time to do all that, especially with all the businesses that are coming in, and this includes the city. So in order to help that in our ISO, this is just a platform that shows him that, let's say SOS has their fire extinguisher inspected, he gets an email saying that these are done, now he doesn't have to go back. And he just will spot check as he goes. So this will really give him more time.
So as a business owner gets busy and doesn't remember that a year has gone by because it goes by very quickly, and doesn't ask for an inspection, what happens?
So our system tracks those due dates, and if that business goes 45 days past due, they get an automatic notice from us letting that business owner know that they're past due for that system. Because you're exactly right. A lot of businesses get so, consumed with the day-to-day, they don't think about their fire system and exactly what date it's due. So we will remind them. It's a proactive approach as well. So like the fire department was saying, fire department might go out and do their visual inspection today, but inspection company might go out in a month and do a full inspection on that fire system type and find some major deficiencies. And if they don't have a way to report that to the authoritative figure, which is the fire department, the fire department isn't aware of that.
So what if they don't? What if they don't? You send them a notice and they don't do it. What happens then?
The same notice goes to the fire marshal, and then he follows up on that. So if, let's say, SOS didn't do it, then he notices it, then he can contact the owners and let them know, hey, this needs to be done. Or if there's a deficiency, let's say you have some fire extinguishers that wouldn't, that you couldn't redo them or recertify them, then we'd send you a notice, hey, this needs to get done. And if it's a real life safety issue, then they can start penalizing businesses to.
Who can?
The county.
Okay. And then, so if a person doesn't have fire sprinklers in their, because we have old buildings here, is this going to make them, force them to get fire sprinklers?
It doesn't bring any new enforcement. It just helps with the old enforcement. Makes it more proactive. And to your last question, if they get a notice and they don't get it serviced, that's where that data allows the fire department to pull all the businesses that are past due and prioritize their inspections. Now they can go, here's our 10 businesses that haven't had it inspected in over 6 months. Let's start here. Let's get these 10 done. So it's just data.
Okay.
So is there a cost to the county to pull those reports?
Nope, never.
So never a cost to the county for the reports? Okay.
And I think this contract, it's an initial 1 year with an automatic renewal, but it's 90 days written notice. You guys can cancel our service. You're not locked in, and you can take the data with you.
So I do remember seeing that we do own the data, and I remember reading through there and seeing that. That's-
I didn't see the automatic renewal. Is that something you're comfortable with?
It's an automatic renewal for 2 years after the initial, but only if the client reaches out within or no later than 60 days before the renewal to do that. So it's actually an automatic termination is the way I read it, unless we reach out to renew it for 2 more years prior to 60 days before the new term would start.
Sounds like a great organization tool that would help the fire department a lot.
We are now in 30 states. I'm out of Idaho, just over the border, and we haven't had one department cancel our service, so in 6 years.
Congratulations.
I'm still not understanding something. Who pays for all this? I mean, is the business, if he says, nope, you can't come in our business to do this,
The inspection company
doesn't have an
pays.
The inspection comes from the county. And
but
they
we
force
don't
us
pay.
they force us to get somebody to come and service our fire extinguishers or our,
So we are paying that $15? Because
No.
I read it as not.
No, the business owner.
I do.
The business, him as business owner, not commissioner.
Yeah, I know, him as a business. That's what I was trying to get at.
Yes.
Is that the business is
Ultimately, the business
basically
ends up paying.
it's a you're being forced as a
He's
businessman.
gathering information to keep everybody in line.
Right, but it's basically forcing it upon the business to pay that money for the inspection.
Well, in all fairness, we should keep our fire extinguishers current and our systems current.
I mean, see, because the fire marshal, I mean, when you look at what he's got to look at, because he routinely just drops in and checks, but with these annual inspections, he can see deficiencies with just pulling up a report. Or if somebody doesn't get their inspection, he can see that, so he knows, okay, I need to go check this because they haven't had their inspection that we require. And it's all on the business owner. And so at the end of the day, the business owner is either going to pay for the inspection from the third party, or the fire marshal's going to walk in and be like, you guys got to fix all this, and if you don't, then the county can force them to fix. Is that correct? So one way or another, the business owner's paying for it. This is just, we're getting that, we're getting everybody on the same page so that they're routinely getting these inspections and they don't forget. Like, oh crap, it's been another year, and I swear we just did that, but it was 5 years ago. You know, and then Boyd hadn't had a chance to get over there, and next thing we know, all their extinguishers are expired.
And so which businesses are being
All of them.
Every
All
business,
businesses. All
homeowners, businesses,
So-
home-based businesses, everything?
Every business.
So there's a question for you. So on like a home-based business, so somebody's running a little, they're making wreaths or, like I'm an
Hair
electrician,
salon.
hair salon. Like I've had and I'm not telling you like I'm trying to hide, but I'm an electrician, so I keep my little work truck and a few materials in my shop in the house, or not in the house, but in the shop. And like, what do you do for those home-based businesses? What's your inspections?
So all we're looking for is any life safety equipment. So if you're required to have a fire extinguisher in that business, then you would be on that list.
So all agricultural places in the county are gonna have that?
Only if they're required to have fire extinguishers.
Only if your cows light on fire.
Well, you
Well,
know,
that
according to
methane-
Biden, they would have.
All that methane. Okay. So it really comes down to what the home-based business may be.
Yes.
So if they were an FFL storing ammunition and doing that as well, they would have to have that additional fire. Thank you.
Can I ask
It'd
just
probably be easier just to say that businesses pay for it than it's free.
Yeah, that's the best way.
We always, since we charge the inspection companies, we don't like to assume that every inspection company is going to pass that fee on to the businesses, because they don't. Do some of them? Absolutely. But we can't assume that all of them are going to pass that fee on. Some of them eat it because now they're getting a lot more inspections done, and they're generating more revenue because those 10 buildings that weren't being inspected year to year are now being inspected, so they're getting more inspections done. So, all in all, it helps everybody.
I would agree with
Yeah.
it. I don't,
Okay.
Can I ask just a couple clarifying questions?
Absolutely.
Okay. So on pages 3 and 4, and sometimes it may just be, using a form or something. I just want to make sure that I'm understanding that these aren't contradictory or from the county's perspective. It seemed like in 4.1.1, it talks about that all the services will be fully and timely performed, right? But then when we get to 4.2, it talks about LIV does not warrant that vault or the services will be uninterrupted, timely, secure, or error-free. So I think the error-free makes sense because you're not putting in the data, right? And so it could be errors that the user is putting in.
Exactly.
And so you're just saying, we can't guarantee that because we're not the ones managing that data. But as far as secure, is that a requirement, like encryption or anything like that? And does that impact the county, or is this more saying, we're disclaiming to everyone else, because later on it says that the disclaimer extends to the client. And so this isn't really disclaiming to the county, it's disclaiming to the user?
Yeah, exactly.
But you're putting it in your agreement to
Showing
put the
what that-
user on notice, or?
Yeah, and then when they sign up, they agree to their separate terms and conditions, the user.
Okay.
Timeliness of it is just, we can't control
When who signs
But-
up?
the inspection companies. So all the inspection companies are required to register through the state. And so then we reach out to all of those inspection companies, letting them know that your guys' department is now part of LIV. And it is now required to submit reports on X date. So, and like legal is saying, we can't guarantee that those inspection companies are going to put 100% factual information in the system when they enter that data. Does that make sense?
And so, but what you're saying is you're disclaiming to the inspection companies that it may be interrupted, untimely, or not secure. I know the error-free is on them because they're the ones submitting it. But I guess on those other ones, does that impact the county if it's not secure and someone goes in and messes around with all the inspections?
We utilize AWS, which most of the world does these days. And we have the data backed up in 4 different spots across the world.
So
We
there is
have
some
all the
encryption, there's things
we
that
have
are
all-
going on.
We passed every city's IT background check and everything for the data security.
Okay. So just to clarify, you're saying under 4.1, this is to the client, which is the county here, is that everything under the agreement will be fully and timely performed. 4.2 is really letting the county know that we're covered by this as well, but this is the notice you give to the users. And the county, as the client, isn't too worried about this because as far as the agreement with the client, you're going to be timely. You're going to be, it's
Exactly.
going to be secured.
Yes,
It's
we're just
all of
letting
those
the county
things.
know that, hey, all of this data may not be 100% accurate because it says right there, third-party users.
All right.
Yep, exactly.
And then if we go to page 13, because you do have, well, let me go back. You do have in indemnification, this is on page 11, you talk about that LIV will indemnify the county if LIV is breaching the representation warranties or obligations, if there's gross negligence or willful conduct or omissions. So you have that there. But then when I jump to 13 under 12.2, it says, in no event will LIV be liable under or in connection with this agreement under any legal or equitable theory, including breach of contract, tort, including negligence, strict liability, and otherwise for any, and then it lists consequential, incidental, indirect, exemplary, special, enhanced, or punitive damages. And so that seems to be a contradiction of what we have in 11.1, which is saying under, for breaching of the agreement, for gross negligence, willful acts or omissions, we are going to indemnify the county. So I guess I'm trying to understand, are those contradictory, or do they work together, and I'm just not seeing how they work together?
Number on page 13.
On page 13 is 12.2. And so really the only thing it's not excluding is direct damages. Even though before but it does exclude breach of contract, which is covered under 11.1.
I'll be honest, I would have to sit down and read this in depth on these sections more. That's why I have a legal team. If you have
And so
questions on this,
I'm just wondering maybe if we pass it,
because I think you have to read some of the sections before to make sure it's falling a little.
right. I mean, 11.1 sounds great, but then 12.2 seems to just take everything out of 11.1, even breach of contract. So that,
section 12 is assumption of risk, limitations of liability.
sorry, 12.2
Yeah,
on page 13.
I'm looking at section 12 where it starts. Page 12. So 12.1 is risk inherent to the internet.
Right.
12.2.
So you're saying that 12.2 only applies under risks inherent to the internet?
That's an assumption. I'm not 100%
Okay.
sure. I'd have to ask my legal team on that.
Okay. I think that's really the only one. 12.2 is the only one I'm somewhat uncomfortable with because it seems to work against 11.
And we are always willing to adjust our contract.
Okay.
As long as it is in benefit of both sides. So
Right.
if those are questions that are holding you guys back from moving forward, definitely get in touch. Put you in touch with my legal team, and you guys can figure that out.
I'm just wondering if we could approve it subject to the exclusion of that or the,
I'm fine with that.
and then if it doesn't work out, we can bring back the new language
Yeah.
that can
Absolutely.
be beneficial to both sides. But then we still get the approval today to move forward, excluding that one paragraph. And then I would just say at the beginning, I know it's between Morgan County Fire, and it says a municipal corporation, but it's not. And so I wonder if we just have it with the county as a political subdivision and just update that. But Boyd, I know we've had this discussion in the past. What do you recall, or how is the fire department set up? But is it a sub-entity of the county, so it's not its own entity? Yeah, and so it's kind of like the fair board isn't its own entity. A contract with the fair board is with the county itself. So I would just also make that one change, that let's have it just be with Morgan County, exclude fire, and then just call it a political subdivision of the state of Utah.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
Is that okay? Okay. I move that we approve.
Just writing your name down.
We approve the master service agreement between Morgan County and Life Safety Inspection Vault LLC, subject to the conditions and updates that have been provided by the county attorney.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Newton and a second by Commissioner Blocker. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Uh-oh, he took his glasses off.
Honorable Jeremy.
All right. I'm here to get berated because I want more money. You hired a bunch of new people, so we had to get more Microsoft licenses for Office 365 and telephones. So that is the... Do you have any questions?
So every time we hire an employee, it costs that much money?
That was 4 employees.
How many employees?
You've got 2 new ones in planning and then 2 part-times that started over at the fairgrounds, or excuse me, at the fire department. And then you have 1 new planning one that's starting, or assessor.
So they
Treasurer
so they
part-time.
charge a $750 employee to set up a phone and a
It's
Email.
$456 per license with a phone and office per
That's the
year.
1292.
Oh, I'm looking at 3,000.
They're
That's
opposite in the
that's
packet.
number two. That's a whole different ballgame.
And that's a yearly cost, right?
Correct. That will add to our current Microsoft bill that we pay every year.
Which,
So what have we done in the past, Jeremy? Do we just not budget it?
I,
and then
I
we-
run a very tight budget. It matches exactly what I spend. So if you add employees, I have to add funds to cover their software.
The commission requested that now if it comes out of GR, that the department head come forward and ask for the budget adjustment. So in past, he's turned in the paperwork, but it's just been part of the big budget adjustment. He's just,
And this would be part
Following
of
the
our
process.
first quarter adjustment we
Mhm.
usually do.
Okay, I guess we can talk about having a fund or something so we can, isn't it helpful to know?
basically
Well-
cover
Doesn't
the general
matter?
fund.
I mean, we know now going forward, right, for this one. From a budgeting standpoint, these are the little ancillary costs that we don't we anticipated the wages and benefits when we agreed to hire new, but it's this little stuff that we don't necessarily anticipate. And I guess there's two ways you could handle it. You could increase Jeremy's budget permanently by a few thousand, or you can let him run it how he is and just make the budget adjustment every year, and then now come fall, when he does his budget for next year, he's gonna have this already included.
Okay.
So are we gonna have to also, and this may not affect you, but on all these new employees, are we gonna have to get cell phones for them also? So that's an additional cost?
Only if they require cell phones, which not
Well,
all
planning
employees
would
do.
be.
Yes, the two new people there got cell phones. Well, one is getting the stipend, the other one got a cell phone. But they're not in the office.
But that comes out of the department budget, correct?
Correct. That's out of Josh's budget.
So, and as I recall, you built that into your budget when we set the budget initially, right? Yeah. Usually they do if they ask for an employee. It's just Jeremy's is different because
so
he's.
the phone is for the
yeah.
desk phone.
They got two new desk phones, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, Lauren? Okay, I'll look for a motion then.
Oh, there's a second one.
Oh,
Over
I
the
thought we were
$3,000
approving both
one.
of them at once.
Oh, you can approve them both. That's fine. I don't. The second one's
No, tell
more
us what
hard
the
to explain.
3,000's for.
So, a Jules is the software that the assessor, the treasurer, and the recorders use for all of their data entry. Last year, in the middle of the year, John Singer sent out a new contract that I was working on Garrett with, and somehow it got dropped. I forgot about it. I don't know what happened. But anyway, his price increased by $250 a month this year, which totals to $3,000 to cover the contract for that software that's shared by those offices. And Garrett is still working on the contract to get that for approval because, well, you
There
can
were
say-
some provisions that we were uncomfortable with, just as far as like an early termination, where it seemed very, not punitive necessarily, but it seemed out of the ordinary. And I've spoken with John, and he said, oh, this is just our standard contract. We're not, like, we're open to the changes. And so I sent a red line to Jeremy. There was still like, okay, maybe we narrow that window so that because I was under the impression it may take a year to transfer to a new software. Jeremy doesn't think it'll take that long, and so I'm going to change that red line, make sure Jeremy's good with it. I'll send it to John Singer, and then we'll probably have it back in the next couple meetings to
Is-
review.
Is there anything, the contracts, I didn't see a contract in here, but
No, the contract hasn't been. This is just
is there a limit to
Change
what
of
he
the
can
price.
change the price to each year?
not really, because he's our sole source for this software, because we run on the coins.
He hasn't changed the price in about 10 years, but the contract that Garrett's working on, I believe it goes $3,250, then $3,500 next year.
And so it goes up $500 over the next 2 years, but he hasn't changed it for 10, you said,
Yeah,
or
it's probably about
so.
10
And so,
years.
I mean, a lot of people have come in long before this to bump it up, but that's yeah.
There are other softwares out there, but they're even more expensive. Kate can tell you about that.
And we have had many work discussions specifically with the recorder's office about moving to Tyler, if you remember some of those work sessions and just some of the cost of that. And so generally, but I guess the other question would be, would you like to be involved in the negotiation on the price, or, you know, to say, hey, can we do it differently this way? The thing that we were most uncomfortable with was the early termination provision, and the fact that he hasn't raised it for 10 years is like, okay, I understand you're trying to catch up to the market a little bit here, but I don't think that that's off the table to negotiate either from my conversation, but it wouldn't be me necessarily negotiating that. It's a quorum of what feels comfortable, or if you make a determination.
A lot of them have, we can go up 5%, you know, or
Yeah.
whatever. I just hate to have it be a blank that he comes in next year and.
Well, next year
Or
I'll
2
know.
years from now and says.
Now I'm
you
doing
know,
$250
I'm
a
going
year
5.
is the thing that, yeah. And so maybe if you want, I can come up with some language that says after, you know, the equalizing with the market, or, you know, the 3,500, if that's where, is it 30? Sorry, am I off? I think
I
it's.
want to think there was 3 steps. That's what.
Okay.
Do you have the contract?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do.
We saw that last year. We saw the contract that came out. You sent it out, or somebody did.
Yeah, me and
We
Garrett
had
were
it,
working on it, and I just
but
House Bill
we
491
didn't
took all
approve
my
it.
time.
Yeah, it just never moved forward to the point of reaching out to John to move that discussion forward until the new bill came in at the higher, and it's like, oh, we've got to figure this out. So let me just pull up.
In either way, that doesn't affect
This.
this. We need to make the budget adjustment.
Correct.
And I would just suggest that, Matt, maybe you work with Garrett on this. Just if we can negotiate something, great.
If not.
If not, the cost to
I'm not
switch
as-
is really, really high when we looked at that. So. we
And
gotta
not all
do
of the
something.
offices were on board with switching because of how it impacts. They've just had other counties that have made the switch and have had some issues.
Okay.
Some
We have
offices
others.
more than others.
We have other software that actually integrates with coins too that would have to be modified before that. So
In 2026, it is the 3,500 that it would go up to. But I don't know that there's something against us putting in that says, and thereafter, you know, maybe we extend the contract for a few more years. Thereafter, it'll go up, you know, 3%, 5%, whatever,
Okay.
whatever
Right.
you'd like me to do. But I can talk to you more about that offline.
It just feels like you're between a rock and a hard spot when you're right here.
Yeah,
So,
they're a sole
you know-
source. We don't really have any other options.
So I'd rather negotiate it now for 2 years ahead.
Right.
I'd be in the poor
2 years.
IT guy.
Okay.
I can make a motion. I motion to approve the budget adjustment request due to increased software costs and the additional costs of adding 4
4 different
new
ones.
employees requested by the Morgan County IT Department.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Blocker and a second by Commissioner Newton. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you for speaking in the mic.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move backwards now to a presentation from the Boy Scouts.
So you built us some benches.
Yeah, so for my Eagle project, I built 6
Can
shooting
we have you
benches.
come up and stand too?
I built 6 shooting benches for the Morgan County shooting range.
I cleaned
up the Morgan County shooting range too. So,
What'd you find? Anything good?
so we cleaned up some wooden debris at the top, and then we cleaned up the trap house, and we were gonna do both of the sheds, the concession and the storage, but we only ended up doing the storage because there was nothing in the concession stand. But since there was so much snow there, most of the stuff that we were planning on getting out was like all frozen to the ground, so it was very hard. It was very difficult to get out. So we ended up taking one of my leader's trucks up there, and we would just tie a rope around it and just try to haul it out. It was a lot of fun.
What are your names?
I'm Preston. This is Lincoln.
Do you have last names?
Albert.
Talbot.
And this is an Eagle Scout project, I'm assuming, for both of you? Okay. When do you receive your Eagles?
Whenever I decide to do my paperwork.
You're grounded. No license till you get that done. That's what my dad told me.
These are great benches. Good job. Thanks for your service. For Eagle Scout boys, so I know it's a lot of work. For the mom. Just kidding.
Yeah. Just for the mom.
Yeah, what a great project.
Thank you.
Gentlemen. We
So
appreciate
much.
it.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, great work. It's good.
Okay, do you have anything else?
Not really.
Okay.
Although, thank you to John for helping us out. He was totally awesome sauce.
Awesome sauce.
Yeah, he met with us after hours, and it was great. It was awesome.
Okay.
Who's your leader?
Like the troop leader. This is my. Are you talking about the scoutmaster? Like,
Your scoutmaster or whoever's
Oh,
with you.
this is my dad right here.
Oh, Dad.
Awesome.
Good job.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, John, for being awesome sauce.
Awesome sauce. I'm changing your name to that on my phone right now, John. Awesome sauce.
Okay, it was Preston and
Lincoln.
Lincoln. Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
Good job, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming in.
Couple of things. We really do appreciate John and his ability to just be able to decide what to happen. And then he met with us multiple times after hours. We needed space to stain the benches, and he opened up his shop, and we had about 20 guys there, 25 guys up there, and needed to feed them as well. And John was like, "We'll just use the shop, you know," and just open that right up to us, and that was very welcoming, very, very welcoming. And then when we had the idea for Preston's project to clean up everything, we just needed a big dumpster, and again, just John arranged that, made that possible for us, so it was just nice and easy. We showed up with, how many guys came? 20. So it was just easy when you have that many people coming up. It was just easy to just point them in the direction, and John had that all arranged for us, and just take everything to the dump that needed to be done. So we really appreciate his work and the support.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Lincoln, did you design the benches and cut all the wood and?
So I kind of my dad found the plans for the benches on YouTube, and then we just got the wood and we cut it up and put it together.
Good job.
Yeah, we modified the designs because the design that we had was just it had the peel up front and the one in back, and so we just added a few more, and just like made it a little more.
So how many are there total?
6.
Great.
Excited to go see them.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Awesome Sauce.
How are you guys?
Good, how are you?
Good. Okay, so Commissioner Nickerson and I met and talked about kind of like grand plan, what is for the recreation department. We have lots. Right now, he just has a bullet point list because a full comprehensive plan takes a while, but we are working on one. And we're really excited for that. Part of that is Kent Smith. Currently, we have the cemented goalpost, and we've talked about this a lot. In 2023, the commission approved for $3,000 to be allocated to purchase portable goals at Kent Smith. I don't know if you guys remember that. So during that time, it didn't happen. The plan was to partner with the UISA, and they were going to chip in and we were going to match because we don't currently have a program that uses goals that big. But we do understand that by ripping out the cemented goals, it is kind of putting them at a disadvantage, and they rent the park, and so we would like to have infrastructure there that they can use. So anyway, it was approved for the $3,000. UISA at the time wasn't able to meet the match. I consulted with Commissioner Anderson, and since we didn't really need them out right then and there, it was kind of like, hold off. We'll do it later. So now it's later. Now I need them moved. So I'm here to just ask if that $3,000 can be approved again so that we can partner with UISA. I've spoken with them, and they're good to partner now. So
they are going to match? Did they put it in writing?
it's not in writing. So I guess one is to get your yes stamp of approval. We are on board with you pulling out the concrete goals. We understand that means that the comp teams don't technically have a goal right now, and we're going to have to buy one before their season begins in April. But that also means that now we can use Kent Smith as a multi-purpose field, not just a soccer field, which will help so that we can move goals, including these soccer goals, into different areas so that grass is not always being used in the same place every single year, and we can help the longevity of the fields.
So you mentioned we'd need to buy a second set of goals. That's size-wise, is that why?
Yeah, portable
so
goals
we'd
that
have
are.
two different sets, one that's larger and one that's smaller.
So we have a smaller set there right now that are portable.
Oh, okay.
That's the larger set that are currently cemented into the ground. And
Gotcha.
that would be the portable size that we need to buy. They run like $2,000 to $3,000 a goal.
So it's only one set we still need to
Yeah,
buy?
we only
okay,
need one
I
set
misunderstood
of goals.
that.
Sorry, we
Okay,
only need one
gotcha.
set of goals.
So your ask is to, one, take out the cement ones.
Yeah.
Two, to purchase a second set of removable soccer goals.
Yes.
And where would those be stored?
At Kent Smith. We just leave them there. Yeah, the ones we're looking at them are kind of like the ones at the high school field that have wheels on them that we can kind of push out of the way. And then we just leave them there. And they're durable outside. They're fine.
And who's doing the tear out?
The what?
Brett?
Who would be doing the tear out?
6.
Joel.
He's going to put that Mini X to work.
There you go.
I've talked to Joel with the Parks Department, and we've discussed the possibility of moving them and pulling them out, and I've talked to Brett too. So yeah, obviously come on, I'm just going to drive an excavator on the field and rip them out with my bare hands. No, I was going to partner with the Public Works Department. Awesome Sauce John too, I'm sure, you know. Yeah, so that would be kind of the plan. I believe that they have the equipment.
Lydia, do you remember when we approved that in 2023? I remember approving it, but do you remember what account we approved that to come from? Was it just going to be from the general fund balance?
No, it came out of the fund balance, the recreation fund.
The recreation fund balance?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know that we need to reapprove that because the recreation fund is a revolving fund.
Well,
Been
we would,
approved.
because we've only allowed so much of it to go into the recreation, because we need but this would be considered infrastructure.
It's
so
infrastructure.
We can actually do
I said, I was told I needed your guys' approval to touch fund balance money, even if it's rec fund.
Yeah.
It's always a good idea, I think. Better
Question
safe
I
than
have,
sorry.
if I may, for you.
Yes.
In this, where soccer may not be used there as much, and we might have to, because of you want to put flag football down or some kind of football down there.
Flag football,
So
yeah.
is that going to affect them at wanting to help partner with us to get new
Yes.
soccer?
Short answer, yes. So I've spoken to the UISA representative. He's aware of our needs of the field, and I'm aware of their needs of the field. We've tried to compromise where we can. The soccer season starts before our flag football season starts, so they would use it up until then, and then they'd use it in between the times that we're not using it. So I've been working with their representative to make sure that they at least do have time. We're not going to use it on Saturdays for our spring soccer at all, so that they can have it all day Saturdays for their competitive games. And then
The fall soccer.
that is a fall soccer problem. It's going to depend on what their schedule looks like, how many kids we get to register, how many teams they have. It's kind of ever moving. I can't concrete say, because our numbers are so different with every season. They're always growing, but we never quite know how many teams we're going to have until our registration closes.
All right.
So yes, I mean, short answer, it will limit competitive teams from the fields.
I love that you'll be able to rotate space on the field so we can save our grass.
Yes, actually, there was something else I didn't bring up. Not just the goalposts, the trees in the center of the field. I would love to move those to the west side of the field as well. I've spoken with some people about a tree spade to get them. They say it's a pretty easy process. I would just need to find someone. I've been talking to some people that have them or have connections to them about possibly donating their time or getting it at a discount. Subsidized for the county, because then that would further increase our ability to rotate the fields in any direction. That really large field, which is the full-size soccer field in the back, currently can only play in that one area, and so the grass where the goal is gets really, really worn down, and it's practically dirt at this point. But if we move that middle row of trees, we can actually rotate that field and do it north to south one year and do it east to west the other year, and just give that grass a break. So our public works don't have the equipment to do it. I would have to find someone, but I have kind of put some feelers out, and it sounds like that is something within our budget that I wouldn't even need to ask for money to do.
And I think one thing that she had brought up in our meeting was, trying to preserve those trees, keep them there, but just kind of move them out of the way and not, I mean, it's cheap and easy, just cut them down and rip them out, but really trying to preserve
I'd like to preserve them.
Keep them there.
Shade,
keep some shade. and
sentimental value.
things like
Yeah.
that.
They're pretty big.
They are pretty big, yeah.
So that could be pretty expensive to move.
The only ones that are going to be kind of in question are those really big pine trees on the very south end. All the others are small enough that they can be moved.
So you're going to take out the pine trees too.
I would like to move all the trees. I don't want to cut any of them down. If we can save them all, it would be great. But yeah, if they're too big, then we would end up just removing them.
Seen a spade at Clark.
Yeah, that's what I was
Maybe
gonna-
call Clark's and see
Yeah,
what they would do.
I was going to call him. I just needed
Do you
to-
have plans to level out the field so it's not like?
Yeah, so we have one of our coaches owns some equipment, and he's offered to let us use his field roller if we get it really wet. He's willing to come roll it all out after all the changes are made to help everything. Level out. Another thing we've kind of thought of is Home Depot sells sod in single rolls. And so if we end up pulling out the goalposts and we have a lot of big dirt, then we can go just lay down some sod, rope off the field for a month, and be like, just don't touch it, please. And then that'll help kind of bring the grass back in.
Wasn't there also was there an irrigation valve control out in the middle of the field somewhere or something? Was that something that kids kept tripping over? Or?
Yes, that's actually just because the grass has been worn down.
Okay.
So the valve itself, at least, correct me if I'm wrong, from my understanding, it's just that the grass in that area is pretty much non-existent anymore, and so that valve sticks up more than it would if normal grass was there. So yeah, I guess can I have $3,000 from my fund balance, please? Can I rip out goalposts and can I move trees?
If we don't have to approve it.
I mean, do they have to approve it?
Question I
I mean,
have.
it's been approved. If you want to approve it again, approve it again.
It was approved 2 years ago, so I don't know if that.
It was. My
We
question
probably ought to
is
do it again.
if the YSA or whoever does not agree to it, then we're going to have to come up with the excess.
So I guess that
whatever it
is
costs.
my
So
question
we
for
may
you
have
guys.
to
Do
approve it
you want to
again.
come up with the excess, or are you just going to say, sorry, snooze, you lose? I don't have a program that uses a goal that big. I think we should have one if we're going to rent fields. We should have the equipment for people to use.
I would say if they're not interested in partnering on it, we rip the old ones out and they don't have the goals to use. If they want to rent the field and have the goals, if that's the only entity that uses it, I don't know why we would spend the full cost to buy it.
I agree.
Kind of my thought.
Well, won't we be having some soccer down there?
Our 7th and 8th graders play on a 9v9 field, not an 11v11 field, and we use the current portable goals that are there.
The smaller goals.
Yeah,
Okay,
the
so
smaller
we
goals.
don't need.
So we don't need the big ones for our
8
for our
full-size
program.
goals. Currently, as the program stands, as the program grows, we might, but currently we don't.
We can cross that bridge.
I'm saying,
Yeah,
they're not
that's
willing
a
to
that's a
share.
future problem.
And I don't
We
think
don't
we
do it.
need to approve it. It was already approved.
Tear the old ones out, and if they'll share, then move forward. If not, then.
Okay, we agree it's already been approved.
Awesome, thanks. Can I say one more thing that's actually not on the agenda, but I wanted to talk about real fast? Cool. No one said no, so I'm just going to go for it. The community parks grant that had been brought up, Commissioner Nickerson and I talked about that as well. The max ask is $200,000. I would really love to start the fairgrounds project. $200,000 is not going to go far in starting the fairgrounds project. I have a couple of concerns about that. We are in the middle of a floodplain study, and I would hate to put money into the fairgrounds and then 2 years later the floodplain comes back and be like, actually, you can't do that. You have to move all of these things. So I'm really hesitant to start anything at the fairgrounds until we either finish the floodplain or we do our own environmental study that'll clear that area prior to the floodplain before we put money into it. And I think the Division of Outdoor Recreation is going to agree. If I submit for that grant, they're going to have that question. And my response is, I don't know what the floodplain study is going to say. And so I don't.
Why do we
But
need
we
to
don't need it
worry
for a
about the
field.
floodplain for a field? We don't need that.
That's only
well-
if we're going to build a structure. We don't need a floodplain study to build a field. We could finish out fields immediately.
So we're building a parking lot as well, and I'm hoping to put a new storage facility on that land.
That's fine, but we could start with the fields. If we could get some grant money to help and get some fields in place, we could do that immediately.
So again, it's only $200,000.
I realize that's about the cost to put the fields in from what we looked at previously.
I would say the last time we got the bid, it was a lot more than that.
That was to do a lot.
That was to do a whole lot more
A whole
than,
lot more than just one field.
yeah.
I think
Okay.
it was $1 million+ to do a major portion of the
Yeah.
whole fairgrounds without the buildings.
It was a handful of plots. So then I guess my question then is the master plan as it sits, the west side of the pickleball courts. That I'm assuming is the area that you guys are talking about, as in we would put the field there.
The west side of which one?
Wait, no, not the
No.
west side.
No, this is that
East.
other field. This is
What other
east
field?
of
Up
this
the
is other
canyon.
field.
East of the pickleball courts,
That-
the one that is being rented out
Yes.
by cattle.
That one.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, that
Yep.
field. And that's the one we were gonna make into the multi-purpose trail, or multi field. And in that, part of that whole thing was to have it for football, for whatever we needed it as, and to have the parking space in that area. And that's what the whole goal was. Now, it hasn't changed as far as I know. It has not changed at all yet. And that was one that I don't think we need the floodplain for, study for that one.
Okay.
But we
That
do
flood
need to have it
does,
engineered,
that
whatever
field
we
does
have to
flood.
do. What's that?
That field does flood.
And that's something
That,
we
well,
have
that's
to-
how it's watered. It's
Yeah.
flood irrigated.
It's flood
It
irrigated.
really just needs to be land leveled really
That's right.
good.
That's exactly right.
And you'd have a playable field.
And then as far as the watering of that field, it depends on if we've got seepage coming up through there. Brett, you could help us with determining that.
That stays pretty green year round, doesn't it, Brett?
It does.
Stays green, which it does. It's going to take more. It's going to take more than you think to go east. Is what she's really talking about. She's looking for something a little bit quicker, and you do have some space the west side of the pickleball courts that isn't going to take as much dirt fill and as much money. So depends on how big a field she wants. I mean,
our plan doesn't
it's
even
east.
contemplate making that a field at all. That area, it contemplates parking there.
Yeah, parking
and more pickleball courts.
and more pickleball courts.
So everything to the east, it is going to take more fill than you think, as far as being able to make it a field that isn't going to sub and have a water problem. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Even though it makes a nice pasture, it doesn't make a good enough field. We're going to have to raise it up.
I mean, we got a lot of dirt down at the airport.
Yeah.
We do, don't we?
We just need something to
Yeah, we
filter
can.
it.
I mean, yeah, fill dirt's probably
Plain goes.
easy
I
to
think
get.
you're fine on the fields there. It's just when you come to a structure. You're right, Commissioner Newton, on that. It's just when it comes to a structure.
I'm just saying, if you keep kicking this down the road, you're not going to get the funding to do it.
And I'd say we do it.
I would say
Got the
apply
money to
for
do
a
it. I
grant.
would
Let's
say
get
go
a
ahead
field
and attack
going.
the fields to the east.
We gotta start
It's just I don't know if you can do it for 200,000. I would think it's going to take a little more than that.
Well,
I
that's a
could be wrong. I
50%
hope I'm wrong.
match, right? So it might cost us 400,000.
Yeah, now you're probably closer to what it's
Or
going to
40.
take to build some permanent fields, because you're going to have to raise it. I mean, the river's real close, and it subs worse than you think. You're going to have to do it right, so you don't have any trouble sure of that. So
Yeah.
Okay, I guess that answers my question. That was, I guess, my question was that I feel like it's going to be a lot more than 200,000. So is it something the county is willing to pay 200,000 for?
We had previously discussed committing a couple $100,000 to get some fields going. So,
And we can do that.
and I think that's where the
a lot of
focus ought to
different
be,
funds.
not on buildings and parking lots right now. We have parking there. Yes, it's a little further. You'd have to walk from the fairgrounds parking over there. But there is parking available, although not as convenient.
And no one is going to be parking on it, right?
What's that?
I said, and
Not
no
our
one, no
field.
one's going to be parking on the field.
Oh, on the field? Well, no. Yeah,
Okay.
you're going to
No,
put
he's
some
saying where
barriers
you
up
were
there.
Talking a field.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to clarify. If I build a field, it can't be like dual use for parking during Fair Week.
Well, that's exactly why where you're talking about building a field, that was why it was never contemplated to be a field
Yeah.
on the west side.
I mean,
because
it is
that is
technically in
parking.
master plan as a field.
No, the master plan, I'm looking at it right now. It
Has
has
it
parking
changed?
and it has,
Well, that changed.
oh, it does say
No,
multi-sports
that-
field
that's a
right there. You're
field.
right.
That's
There's a
field.
little section with parking on each side.
Yeah, but that was originally an appeal, so we're not going to do that field.
I think you need to focus on the other side
Okay.
first.
The east field.
Whether we get to that or not, and when we get to that is a different story, but
Okay.
I think the best field to start with is that one we're talking about, not the lower one.
it's the larger area
It's
too.
the larger area for
You could get multiple fields out of
I
that.
mean, it's enough for your flag football, regular football, maybe high school football. Who knows if we have bleachers. So that is a big area.
Okay.
So
We can do that. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Lydia.
Okay, we're going to have a recess real quick.
Kate. Thank you. Yeah, I've got one here too. Full eyes. These are easier.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started.
Mr. Chair.
Okay.
This action item, Mr. Chair, is the Gardner Development Rezone. It's application 24.060. The approximate. Can you hear me okay?
Not really.
No?
Oh, okay.
I'll just stand closer.
Sounds like it's on.
The Gardner Development Rezone, application 24.060, is approximately located at 4815 West Old Highway Road. And the request is to rezone property that has a split designation of RR1, A20, and Commercial Highway CH, and actually a sliver of RM15 to RM15 completely, which is a multiple family residential district. There has been, well, this item went to the Planning Commission on December 19 of 2024. A public hearing was held and a recommendation was made to deny this application with a vote of 3-2, if I'm not mistaken. 3-2. Subsequently, it came before this body. You know what? Yes, it came to the Planning Commission on December 19, and then it subsequently came to the County Commission. A work session was held on February 4, and again tonight, this evening, to discuss this item, to discuss how we can make good planning efforts to have cohesion and a good request between multiple property owners in the area. But again, this item is a request for townhomes off of Old Highway Road. Staff believes that the proposal as it stands is a good request. It makes good planning sense based on surrounding land uses in the area. The findings in the staff report outline that, and I'm happy to answer any questions, Mr. Chair. The applicant is in the audience tonight. Thank you.
Jeremy, you mentioned the request was to be able to, you believe is to be able to build townhomes there in the future, but this is still TC zoning, so there is a commercial component that would be required, correct?
This one has a general plan designation of town center, but the request is
Oh,
to
that's
rezone.
right.
The
remember this
technicality
discussion.
is that town center is the only future land use map designation that would even allow for by family. So it's being used for the request tonight, but the request for the hard zoning is RM15.
Okay. Thank you.
There was some discussion at the first meeting in January, where we had discussed combining both applications into one application for town center. After the first work session, there was some decision or recommendation that they stay separate, RM15, and then the other application for town center. Again, if the county commission wants to approve this as town center, that's within your purview, since it was discussed combining them at the last meeting during the public hearing. The applicant is in the audience though, and may want to speak.
It was my understanding today at the meeting that we were basically, all this area was, I thought, being put on hold, to tell you the honest truth. I thought we were kind of waiting for them to come back and share exactly what they were going to do. I can't remember your name. Skylar says his dad still wanted to move forward with this. That would not be my recommendation, because we have no ability to have any type of say in what happens as soon as it's done to RM15.
If I may, Sure. Interject. For the RM15, that is correct. If you were to rezone all of it to town center, that would still give you the opportunity to do the development agreement as discussed, and gives you that power there, the negotiation.
Which is how I understood it. So we had a town center area that we were going to negotiate with and have 4 different development agreements, or we felt like one was going to be difficult. But so if we go ahead and approve an RM15 there, we push that right out of the equation, is how I'm seeing it myself.
If it's rezoned RM15, it would conform with property to the south, which is currently RM15. Our development standards for RM15 are fairly limited.
Yeah, currently, the piece directly to the south. Can you pull up the map just so we can look at that?
Johnson Townhomes.
Because you're right, that chunk directly to the south is RM15, but
That's the Johnson property.
Go down one more.
Yeah, but we were talking to the Johnsons too, hoping that they would be open to figuring out how to do a beautiful town center.
Well, let's hear from the applicant maybe. Huh?
Okay.
See what their thoughts are.
Thank you. My name is Skylar Gardner, the authorized agent for the applicant, Gardner Development. So we had originally submitted these as 2 separate applications, one for an RM15 zoning, and then the larger project, the 35-acre project, for a town center zoning. As was described, there was some mention of potentially combining the 2 applications into a singular application and moving forward with everything under a town center. We prefer for this 4.5 acres to remain a separate application for RM15. And the reason why is because, so our property, I'll talk a little louder.
Take the mic with you. There you go.
Our property is this area right here in the application for RM15. This one has already been rezoned RM15 and has a concept approval and this 9 acres right here, or approximately 9 acres, is outside of the boundary of the development agreement for the Johnsons. So it's not part of the development agreement that could be amended for the Johnsons. So the Johnsons, I mean, they've already made the application for rezone and concept approval. So I think maybe the confusion might be is when my father was speaking of, bringing all of the 4 parties together in a master development agreement or some cooperation between the other properties, it's his understanding that the 9 acres that's already been rezoned and concept approval is outside of those areas. So there would not be an amendment on that property there for the Johnsons. And what we were looking at is just a continuation, and you could see kind of our streets would line up with what the Johnsons has approved in their concept approval to do not the exact same product, but streets that would line up and a very similar product in that area.
So when we were sitting at the table, Skyler, I went around to each person and said, "Are you willing? Are you willing? Are you willing?" I didn't skip Johnson's. I said, "Are you willing?" Wyatt was there, and your dad was there. Everybody was willing to look at this as a big project. We do not want to have hodgepodge. We want this to be a beautiful city center and have it expand out from the town center to, it's probably going to have some higher density there, and then lower density down to where the other people were that were at the table were as well. So if we go ahead and approve this, then we have no jurisdiction over it at this point. And we have no bargaining with you and your dad as far as saying what it is that we would like it to look like, if you understand what I'm saying. We've already lost that with Johnson's if they don't do what they said they would do at the table today. But I'm hoping that they will do what they said at the
Yeah,
table
and
today.
just to be clear, when they're saying our project with the development agreement, we're willing to negotiate, those 9 acres are not in their development agreement. So I
know they're not. I
don't think they committed to what I'm just saying in their mind, when they say we'll agree to cooperate, kind of like with my father when he's saying, yeah, I'll agree to cooperate. This 4.5 acres was never even mentioned at the table from what I heard.
Well, that whole area was
It was all the
mentioned.
35 acres.
I think we're talking
area.
about that entire kind of section of ground from behind Lee's across to Rome. I mean, the whole thing is
clear up to the fire
Up to the
station.
fire station. That was my understanding too. Let's look at the whole thing as.
And that
as a
wasn't our
whole.
understanding, because when we met in the work session on February 4th, at the very end of that meeting, we said they will remain 2 separate applications.
And then tonight, though, we discussed it to where we were going to see
that's-
what the whole project is, and they were all willing
Yeah.
to discuss that.
And if it was combined as the whole project, that's what it would be, is that right there. It's
Well,
the same
we don't
thing.
know that, because if it turns, I mean.
Well, isn't it
if you're-
governed by
if
the
you're-
zoning ordinance and the code of?
Well, that's true, but I'm just saying that, and as far as I understand, Josh, if they come into us and say, hey, we want to make this whole area town center and that RM15, including the RM15, then they could do so, correct?
The Gardners have no control over the 9 acres of the Johnsons. I don't think when the Johnsons representative was talking about amending the development agreement and getting everyone on board, I think he was talking about his Mountain Green Village development agreement, not this property. That property's been in application phase since what was it, August 2022? I mean, it's been in for a while. Again, though, if you combine the 2 properties into town center through the negotiation process, you'll have control of architecture, or some say in architecture, trails, connectivity, things like that. But my understanding is their intent is for this to be townhomes, and they're going to push the commercial into the bigger parcels.
Because
Anyway, so
you've got at the, if you bring that picture down, okay, and blow it up, you've got that business building right there to the white building right there. Yep, that's already into businesses and everything else. If you're going to put townhomes in there, I mean, maybe it might be best for this whole development to determine what is needed for this area, so that way it's something we can be proud of.
Yeah, and in our review of the area, it's the commercial heart, maybe a little bit more to the left of Lee's. The commercial then steps down to high density, which is RM15, and then from there it moves down to lower density areas. So when we look at it, the townhomes is the buffer between commercial and residential.
And the residents that live there now might like that little buffer with the
Yeah,
townhomes.
the
in
immediate
between that and
owner
the
actually
commercial.
said that their preference would be townhomes over commercial. So, but Josh is right, if we did combine them into a singular application and town center goes on all of it, that other map there, we would do townhomes here, and any 35% of 4.6 acres, whatever that is,
it's an additional
something.
1.7 or something like that.
1.7 acres would be, if anything, it would be moved down to the 35-acre project, which is the next application. So kind of in our minds, it's either or. And when we were cooperating with 4 other parties to master plan the whole area, yeah, we'll do that on the larger parcels, but this one to be tied up with a development agreement and on agreement with other parties, when in the end it was just going to end up, the townhomes.
So
that's why we've kept them separate. So it didn't get I mean, we're talking about a process with 4 parties that could take 2 years. That's not what we were looking for with these properties that we purchased here.
May I interject? And the commission can correct me if I'm wrong. What I'm hearing from the commission is they'd like it all to be town center. I can't speak for the commission. They'll probably deny the RM15 request. But that's up to them. If it all goes town center, it may take a little bit longer to get all the development agreements in place. But at the end of the day, I don't see losing out on what you want to put there. But again, that's
Time value of money for 2 years.
It's
That's-
not that
that's what
it's
our
not that
biggest
we don't
concern.
think maybe that's what will go there. It's that we want the opportunity for us and the community and the developers to say this is what's going to be beautiful here, not just stick these here and we'll plan around it. We've got one chance to do this. We've told you that before. And we want you guys to be partners with us so that we can make a beautiful area there. I realize it's money. Time is money. And we're not saying you can't go ahead with your project, but you got to come to the table and help us design this thing so we have something that we're proud of in Mountain Green.
But that's the town center, right?
But this
That's
is
not
part
what
of the
this-
town center.
This is part of
area.
it.
That's not what the area plan
Well,
says.
Now, the Johnsons can already,
Adopted in December did not identify this area as the town center.
I think we can decide that as a commission, though, whether we want to make this on RM15 or town center or
Well, yeah, that's why
or just deny
the
it.
previous commission adopted the area plan, and we're matching what the area plan shows there. So
Gotcha.
I'm not sure. I mean, we've met the requirements for submittal for the rezone.
So,
Is the area plan that was adopted by the council, but now
We have a new council commission.
new council.
so
and an
the-
area plan is a guiding document. It's not dispositive, and a legislative item is not something you're entitled to.
But wasn't
like
one of the
a-
conditions of adopting the area plan was to amend ordinances to match the area plan? That
So
was
the
one of
area
con-
plans that were
Well,
the
it's-
area
it's a
plans that were
guiding
adopted
document.
in December were not adopted and attached to an existing document. They were adopted to be attached as chapters in the new general plan that is going to be drafted and adopted at a later date. So those aren't the ones that are being followed right now. The area plans that are being followed are the ones that are in the appendices of the existing 2010 general plan. Number one. Number two, the general plan is discretionary, and the whole document as a discretionary document, anything relegated to the appendices is even more discretionary than the discretionary document, if that makes sense. So the commission, whether it says it's town center there or not, they don't have to follow the general plan. And since it's legislative, they don't have to approve it.
But if it's a complete application, and
Yeah,
and
if it's
what
a
I
com-
was going to bring up is, I'm just looking at the Utah code. If it's a complete application, you do have a right to move it forward, but the commission
Get a
still has
decision.
45 days after you submit in writing that you're requesting a final decision. And so, I mean, if you want to move it forward tonight, I think the commission can still make a determination. Based on what I'm hearing, it may not be the determination that you want. If you want to give it more time, you can. If the commission decides not to move forward tonight, you could submit in writing, and then they'd have only 45 days to make a final determination.
On top of that, if I may add, if you go forward with the RM15 and the commission chooses to deny it, you cannot bring an RM15 request forward again for 2 years. You can bring a town center
On this property.
on this property. The request has to be different,
A different zone.
a different zoning. So like town center, which it sounds like, I mean, I don't want to put words in the commission, but it sounds like the commission is leaning towards town center for both of the properties. So they can correct me if I'm wrong. But
And one thing, and you maybe remember my comments earlier, was one of the issues with town center is you've got 4.43 acres. So according to town center designation, you'd be about 1.5 acres required to be commercial, where we kind of discussed, like, maybe we need to look at our code and be like, are there other options than town center? Or are, like, it seems like we're pretty limited on what we're doing. And that was one of my comments, like, maybe we need to look at our code and say, is there something we can have other than town center that's not tying up a bunch of ground? Your dad brought up over and over 80 plus acres across that big project of commercial that we don't need. That should be 20, 25-ish acres, if I recall. And so if we could look at our code, is there some changes we can make that we're not tying up a bunch of ground for commercial that we really don't want there, but it's required in that piece of code? And I'm speaking for me, not the whole commission here, but I think there's some things that we as a commission can look at to be like, okay, let's not tie up a bunch of ground in commercial that we don't need. But can we do something that is conducive to the area, that will give the development rights to the property owner, but still be able to build something beautiful and have influence from the commission and the developer? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And-
And the unfortunate part is that there's just limited zones, right? So it's
And-
town center or
And that
land
was my comment prior, was maybe we need to, as a commission, look at our code. Can we offer other zone that's not here and over there, but gives kind of a range, so that we have an ability to not tie up, like your dad was saying, 80 plus acres on that whole.
So, correct me if I'm wrong though, but if it was town center, because the town center doesn't identify the densities on the residential portions, you've basically applied the RM15 requirements against residential within the town center.
No, the town center's density is defined in the development agreement that you would put together. With the county commission, it would be approved by them at a later date. The RM15 has a set density. You take the total acreage, you subtract out 8,000 square feet for the first unit, and then you divide the rest by 3,000 square feet for the remaining number of units. That gives you the total density that you're allowed. Now, whether you can get that many on a property where you haven't put in your infrastructure, I doubt it. But it gives you the base density that you can work from. That's how it's calculated. But all the other densities for development agreements are defined in the development agreement itself.
Yeah, so in theory, if we did this town center and we shifted the actual commercial required by this 4.6 acres down to the 35 acres, we could actually have more density.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. This is kind of a unique area, and we want it to be right. And I think it's being short-sighted to say, well, we want this here now, when things can be shifted around between everybody and say, okay.
Yeah, I understand that in the whole, but in this zoomed in section, to transfer from commercial down to half-acre residential for the existing homes, I mean, the best planning practice would be a higher density that steps down to those half-acre homes.
We understand that, but we want it to be in a controlled, so we have some say in how it looks.
What if when we come back with the concept plan, can you put conditions for architectural requirements? Is that what you're looking for, architectural requirements?
Well, the town center already has architectural requirements that are in our zoning ordinance. And so it kind of already addresses some of that.
I mean, we can negotiate as zoning approval conditions. The Johnson townhomes, that's been approved, right?
Yeah.
Guarantee they're going to build them.
Well, sure they are.
So this part right here only makes sense to continue as townhomes,
As residential.
because the Johnson's already going to build that. Now, we could negotiate zoning and say, okay, Blue will change this zoning if you put in an acre park. Don't keep laughing at the park thing. But I'm saying we can negotiate and make it more of what we are envisioning, because these other townhomes are already going in. So those are going to go in anyway.
But we have no negotiation
Yeah.
tools if we approve it, RM15.
And maybe they'll want to put.
Well,
under
you
that
can do a
master
zoning
agreement.
approval condition.
No.
No.
Once you
um,
approve the zone,
You're
the
entitled to
legislative negotiation is gone.
And it
The
becomes
RM15
administrative.
doesn't contemplate the park as part of the zoning,
No,
right?
our landscape section is woefully inadequate. There's one sentence related to residential, and it says that the amount of landscaping will be determined at time of plat. But then you go to our subdivision section, and it has no criteria for determining a landscaping at time of plat. So there's just a lot of things in our code that really need to be updated and changed. I don't have the tools for the hard zones to get the trails and the landscaping that you all want. The best course of action, if you want the trails and the open space, is to rezone it to a designation that gives you authority to require open space and things like that.
Josh, does the plan, the PC zone, allow for that?
The PC zoning district.
But does it allow for this kind of density?
Yeah, it's basically it's a build your own zoning ordinance for your property. You would define what you want with relation to.
It does require a development agreement, right?
No, it's controlled by the ordinance. So only like utilities, anything that might require a subset development agreement, you'd have a development agreement for that. But as far as the design and density and everything, the ordinance controls. And so I only really have one document at that point to go to in order to enforce it. Whereas if you look at the Cottonwoods development agreement has been amended multiple times. And not only that, but you have the PRUD ordinance in the zoning ordinance that I have to read. And then you have the development agreements that I have to read. And you have the what's it called? The overlay? You have the overlay ordinance that I then have to enforce because I have to apply. So the PC zoning district, I drafted it to get away from having all those documents. I just wanted one document for it to control everything. So the PC zoning district would do what they want to do without the commercial aspect of it. It has an
Would
open
that give the
space
commission the oversight that they're requesting?
Yes,
from your
because
perspective?
because they would have to work with you and negotiate the various aspects of density, architecture, setbacks, design, trails, things like that.
I mean, it's a pretty small piece of ground to be, finding a park or large trails and stuff on it.
The commission did put a limit on the size, so I don't know.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, if they wanted to tie all of it, almost 40 acres, right? It's 430. Yeah, it's
just under 40.
Yeah, it's like 39 something. If they wanted to throw all that into a PC zoning district and then work with you on the ordinance, the decision tonight wouldn't be made because they'd have to modify their decision or their application. We'd have to. There's submittal requirements for a PC zoning district that aren't required for any other zoning district. Like preliminary drawings, depending on the size of the project, you could require geohazards. I mean, there's a lot of things.
I don't think we'd want to do a PC zoning for the entire project. I was just talking about this little 5-acre piece. The rest of the project, I think that the TC zoning makes sense, and
I think my personal opinion is I think in this case combining the two into a single project town center so that you're comfortable with it and you can control some of the aspects of the density and things like that, they'll end up getting the town homes there that they want. But the PC zoning district, I don't think we wrote it for that small of a property.
So we could combine them tonight into a town center zoning, or?
I would say yes, because it was discussed doing that at the previous meeting during the public hearing.
How do you feel about that, Skylar?
I mean, I understand the controlling aspect of it and ensuring that you're getting a high quality project on these 4.5 acres with the architectural requirements and the open space and everything. It was kind of our project that we were going to move on quicker than it would take to negotiate all of the development agreements and cooperating with all of the other larger landowners. I guess maybe that's where the misunderstanding was, is when we were talking our 35 acres, the Johnsons, however, 100-something acres, we were thinking of the bigger projects, and honestly, this one was kind of separate. But that would be the highest and best use for the property, in our opinion, excuse me, and it matched the area plan, so we thought it made sense. But honestly, I don't know if I could give you that answer about the town center.
I was gonna say, just on a side note, best use, according to Commissioner Block, would be to have a park at 4.93 acres or whatever.
Just make one big park right there.
Expensive park for
One town.
the land, just the land values. I mean,
You could have two.
if I could take like a 1.5 minute time out, I could, for really quick, if that's possible, maybe.
Or we could just postpone
That's
it.
fine.
Yeah.
Is that
What-
okay?
I don't have a problem with that.
2-minute break, really quick.
Yep.
Thank you. Are we good to resume? Is this on? Yeah.
Okay, we'll call it session back in order.
Thank you for that opportunity. I didn't mention this, but Mike and Ryan Malott are here with us. They are actually partners on this 4.5 acres. And I was able to get Rulon on the phone, and he had the same understanding that when we were talking about cooperation, it was on the bigger 35 acres. But we felt that this 4.5 acre-ish parcel was separate and would move forward with the RM15 application. So
Okay.
at this point, we do not want to combine them into a singular application under Town Center.
Okay. Any other questions then? Okay. I'll look for motion then.
I move we deny the Gardner developer rezone application to 4.060, changing 4.43 acres from split designation R1 A20CH, RM15 to RM15 to RM15 completely, and reflect that change. Do I need to read the whole thing?
we have to have reason?
Can I make a comment here? I would prefer that we postpone it and give them a chance to maybe have some discussion and us to have a little thought about it rather than denying it. My concern with denying it is then that starts a 2-year clock before they could reapply for that.
For the same RM15
For that
zone.
same RM15 zone.
And yeah, I don't.
And I'm not sure I want to
I don't
totally
think we
shut the
should
door
deny
yet.
it either. I mean,
But that's just my thought. If
it's
No,
backed
I
up
mean-
too.
So is that an amendment to,
well,
wait, it hasn't been seconded?
it
Well,
hasn't
well,
been
I could
seconded. It
withdraw-
can
I could
either die
withdraw
for
my
lack of
motion.
second, or we can vote on
And
it.
I could withdraw my motion.
If
I mean,
I'm just, that's my comment. I don't.
everybody was pretty quiet, so I'm like, well, if nobody's going to vote, I'm like, I'll just vote to deny it then, and then throw it out there. But if,
What are you postponing it to?
well,
It could be to
I-
a later date. You don't
I-
have to specify a date.
I will withdraw my motion. We can discuss.
Yeah, I mean, my thought was postpone it to a future date. I think I would rather put it in the developer's court and let them think about it and decide, if they have a different thought. I feel like we haven't given them very much time, a few minutes to try to decide that. It's a big business decision
To be
from their
honest,
perspective.
we never even clarified this with them at this meeting. Hey, is this property separate? We didn't clarify that. And
I
so
don't
to
feel
be
like we
honest,
did.
in my mind, it was separate.
It was to me too, so,
So, did the Johnsons experience this much scrutiny when they were approved?
Well, yeah. They had to go to court.
They had,
Well, this-
Well, for the
that's
development
different.
agreement.
Yeah,
That's
not for
different.
this property. Not for the RM15. For the development agreement property to the west, they did go to court for that, but not for the RM15 to the south. They didn't go to court for that one.
Well, I mean, to be honest, I think, perhaps in the discussion we had today, and forgive me because I was late to that discussion, but what I took out of that is that there's a plan to kind of get together and broad strokes paint a picture of what the area looks like. I think if they were to come back, broad strokes, and say this is what the area looks like, and this shows this is residential.
That it fits in there.
Which good planning practices, this would be residential. It would be high-density residential, between commercial and lower-density residential. It makes sense. If that's what it's shown on the overall plan, then I think I'm more inclined to say, yeah, let's move forward with the RM15 zoning. Let's not make this TC zoning. I'm going to start calling it TC instead of town center because when you say town center, people tend to think that's the center of town.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's my thought on it. I think we postpone it. Let's give them a chance to kind of think about it a little bit. Because I also, in good faith, I mean, I think we just had a good discussion. I don't want to sour that by saying no.
No, I was
That makes
like
sense.
ecstatic with our, but I felt like that went from the property of the one owner. I don't remember his name now. I should have.
Okay.
Cameron?
Tony Curtis,
Cameron.
Spencer.
Cameron.
You're talking the
From
property behind
Cameron's
the fire
property,
station?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The gravel pit, clear to the town center. I thought they were going to look at that and just say, this is what we think it ought to look like.
That
And
was my understanding.
It does tie together on the map. Cameron Spencer's property is this one.
yeah.
These 4 properties are Rulon Gardner's. And then this one over here, all of this is Dwayne Johnson's. And then Tony Curtis is up here.
And so I thought those 4 brilliant men were going to get together and do that. That's how I understood it. That was just my understanding. So my wife would tell you I'm wrong a lot, and I will admit that to her. But
What I was
I
saying
just want it to be
earlier is
right.
you don't have to make a decision tonight. We're not under a deadline under the Utah code that we have to make a determination because, to my understanding, no written request has come in for that purpose. And it does sound like there was just a misunderstanding of what was being discussed at the table. Some were even in the commission, some were thinking it was just the one property, some were thinking it was the 2. And so I think the postponing gives the chance to let those discussions continue So
Because
I
yeah, I
agree
don't
with
want
what
to. I don't
Commissioner
want to
Newton's
sour the
saying.
discussion. I don't.
Right.
I want it to be awesome. I want this to be an awesome area.
My only request is if you do continue it, please continue it to a date certain. Otherwise, I have to renotice, and sometimes that can get expensive. Since we would have to pay for it out of the county budget at that point.
Okay. Well, I heard Rulon say a month, but I could have heard that wrong as well.
Skylar, we don't want to mess with your time too badly. If we postpone this a month, does that give you guys time to think about it a little bit?
So March 4th is our next, March 18th is the one after that.
Yeah,
Would you
that
prefer
be-
the 4th or the 18th?
March 4th would be great.
Okay.
I think we
The
could
only
have a
problem
general
is-
diagram of the whole area. And
And if for some reason you feel like that's not
No.
ready, you can always let us know. We push it another.
push it the next.
Yep.
Thank
Are
you.
we gonna do, are we gonna do both of these then, or just the one?
Well, right now, we're just talking about 7. We'll have to get to number 8. So, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we
Thanks for being
postpone-
flexible on that.
Make a motion that we postpone item number 7 to our March 4th?
Correct.
March 4th meeting.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Newton and a second by Commissioner Blocker. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Are we gonna have another work session to go over and discuss any of this, or what are we doing?
Yeah, that's what they said. They said that they would come back and meet with us again.
The whole group didn't say they'd come back. They were thinking more than 2 weeks, because we asked 2 weeks. and they were
That's
thinking-
why we did a month.
Well, that's not a month, that's only 2 weeks.
I thought we did a month.
That'd be 18.
For the work session?
2 weeks.
Oh.
Postpone on this one,
So then we postpone it again for 2 more weeks?
so we'll see what they have ready.
Okay.
I'm trying to-
I guess I wasn't listening. Okay, go ahead.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Chair, action item F8 is application number 24.066. The applicant being Rulon Gardner and the approximate project location at 4937 West Old Highway Road. The current zoning being a split designation of A20 and some RR1, with the general plan designating this area as some commercial, some agriculture, and some rural residential one. They're being split. This has been referenced tonight multiple times, as well as in a work session, and the Planning Commission heard this item on December 19 of 2024 with a similar, well, not a similar vote. It was a vote of 3-1 to recommend a positive recommendation to this body, and staff believes that the proposal is, in staff's opinion, makes good planning sense, also based on surrounding land uses and the findings listed in the staff report. I yield the rest of my time, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Jeremy? Okay, seeing none, is there any questions?
I guess I do. I mean, this looks to me like that was part of that conversation earlier.
This part, yeah.
Yes. And so, but I'm sorry, Skylar, were you saying that this was not going to be part of that conversation that we had earlier?
No, no.
This was.
This was part of the conversation.
In our minds, when we're having the discussion about, Skylar Gardner with Gardner Development, master planning with other landowners, in our minds, we're thinking of the largest parcel, the 35 acres, which is what this
That's this piece
application-
here, okay. I just wanted to make sure I was understanding that we're talking about that piece, okay.
So in terms of, this one is, I believe, we've submitted the narrative, which was what was missing in our previous meeting. That narrative has been submitted along with the general concept plan. But it would be helpful if this one could move forward with Town Center. So as we begin to meet with those other landowners, we have a common zoning for the adjoining property to the east. I guess the Johnson property is slightly different because it's CD zoned by a development agreement. But right now, with no upzoning on it at all, it's kind of hard to have discussions with these other parties. So I don't know that we need a postponement on this one.
question for Mark, for Josh on this one. On this one, it shows TC in the blue, and yet in our packet, it has commercial. So do you know what that is?
They are proposing to go to town center future land use map. When I first started here, one of the applications, I didn't make them do a future land use map because it's discretionary. Oh, I thought I was in trouble. I didn't make them go through a future land use map because the general plan is discretionary, but the direction I got from the commission was that every application that changes the future land, that would change the zoning, we should change the future land use map to match. And so while the future land use map on this one shows majority commercial, some are rural residential 1, and then a little bit of agriculture down here, we had them go through the future land use map change to change it all to town center, so it is in conformance between the zoning and the future land use map.
Can we, as a commission, change this whole area all at once without individual people coming in? I mean, to a future land map of just basically saying this is town center?
You can as part of the general plan, right?
Yeah, the future land use map can be changed at any time. The county commission can direct staff to change a future land use map. Typically, it's done during the general plan stage where you're drafting it, and we're putting out RFPs probably within the next month or so to get that process started. So the future land use map is going to change with the new general plan anyway. My recommendation as a planner is that you don't, as a commission and a body, don't change the entitlements of a property without an application coming forward. There could be some argument about the arbitrariness of it. It's frowned upon. A lot of other states have implemented protections for landowners at the state statute level, prohibiting that kind of thing. I don't know if Utah has something that prohibits that here. Arizona did. They passed, it was called Prop 207. And Prop 207 made it so that if any land use body or commission made a decision on a piece of property that negatively affected that property or surrounding properties, the jurisdiction had to pay for the difference in cost of the damage they caused. So that's kind of where I've come from. I'm not sure about Utah, but it is typically frowned upon for the jurisdiction to change the entitlements of a property without an application.
Okay. I personally would just like to make the whole area town center and then let them decide how they want to do it, and then we can.
But, I mean, again, back to our conversation, that would just encumber a whole lot of ground to commercial that we don't need. I mean, is that?
No, the future land use map doesn't create any encumbrances at all.
I mean, if we change if we were actually change zoning to town center.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, you create a whole bunch of required commercial space we don't need.
Not only that, but you're affecting property owners that are under the understanding that they have certain entitlements, and then you're changing that on them.
And they've bought that with that understanding.
Right.
Correct. I wouldn't change the zoning without an application ever. That's kind of my professional opinion and recommendation. Future land use map, it's discretionary. You can change it. It technically doesn't, I mean, it means something, but it doesn't have to mean anything. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
So with the exception of the 2 parcels that we talked about on the last item, this is really the only property left in the area that's not zoned town center or under a development agreement. Correct?
Where it says commercial.
Which one?
Yeah, so the map that I brought up on your screens is the future land use map. The town center future land use designation is I mean, it's a large area. Not sure why this hasn't changed. That part of that is M&D Nelson, and part of that is
That's already town center.
It's already town center, yeah. So I'm not sure why it hasn't been updated. I'll talk to our GIS guy, but yeah, there's a large amount of town center already.
So where it says commercial in the packet, that is an area that, that is part of the M&D. I can see that.
So the
That should actually be town center.
TC
already.
right there. Yep.
See.
yeah, so this portion right here that shows commercial should be town center already. And then the future land use map amendment, which they applied for, would change this to town center as well, as part of the application.
So right now, we're just trying
So
to
there
get
is nothing left that's commercial there. It's all town center.
town center. There's still some agriculture to the east. So basically, what we're looking at then is if we do this tonight and make it town center, that's just one of the steps for them to be able to get together and do their negotiations. on the master plan. Correct.
Yeah, it would give you the opportunity to work with them. They would then be able to work with the other town center properties. Yeah, and planning commission recommended approval. Staff thinks it makes good planning sense. It allows for the area to be kind of master planned. So.
Any other questions? Then I'll look for motion.
I move we approve the Village at Trappers Loop rezone application number 24.066, changing 36.18 acres from A20 to RR1 and RR1 to Town Center, and reflect that change on the future land use map from a split designation of commercial, rural residential 1, and agricultural 2 Town Center, based on the findings listed in the staff report.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Blocker and a second by Commissioner Newton. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. Okay, F9, Honorable Vaughn Nickerson.
Real quick, can I make a request?
Sure.
Can we hop real quick to 13A so Brett can go home? That's what he's waiting on. Is that okay?
Sure.
Fine with me? No, I guess that's your, no, that's fine.
So that,
Okay, we'll skip to F13A.
that's page 96, Jeremy, if you're
Brett?
still. So COG met February 10th and put forth 2 different projects for the Q3 sales tax projects. One of them is Brett's and the others is the city's. Which one's yours?
Mine's part of the fairgrounds project.
trail?
The trail project, yeah.
Yep. So 2 more pages, please. No, it's Dry Creek.
And this trail project, you've already approved it and funded it, but I thought it'd be a good idea if we use some of the COG money to help fund it. So this is addition on what you've approved last year, and this project will get done or started probably sometime in May. And the reason I just want to speak on a little bit is that's on our CIB list, and it's right at the top, Commissioner Fackrell, on that list. And when I put in for this, it says partial, and that means we're just doing partial part of the fair. I mean, of the trail. It's late, and I've been up since 3 o'clock. So anyway, that's the reason I want to speak on it. And so I will keep that at the top of the list, the CIB list, with the city, and we'll just do this partial. I just thought it was fair if we use some of that money from COG to help pay for this project, because this money, this project is going to come out of regional parks, and so this is going to help us in the fairgrounds financially. there. So just so you know what I'm thinking on this project in the future. And I liked what happened tonight. That was the other reason I came here tonight, was to kind of help Lydia out. And I appreciate your comments, Commissioner Newton, on furthering the fairgrounds
Jeremy, I got
project
it.
and to the east side of that, because this all ties together. So if we're to bring in those fields and bring that ground up where we need to, we can continue this trail all the way up. So that's a big part of it. We can't do this trail farther than we're doing it right here until we do that project, Commissioner Newton. So I appreciate that. So you can see how it all ties together with recreation and the fairgrounds and a trail project. And if any of you commissioners have any other ideas on trails, I'm all ears on putting something else on the list. And I think Commissioner Blocker kind of had that idea. We need more trails in Mountain Green. I think she said that to me, and I agree. We just need to tell me where we want them. So if we come up with any ideas, that's great. Let's put them on there. So this is kind of a simple
And
thing.
how we're going to maintain them.
And how we're going to maintain them. That's another thing. We still haven't budgeted for that. I mean, I budgeted in the parks, and I did put that in that application. How are we going to take care of this little bit of trail? And it will be with parks money, but I don't think that's a big deal as of yet. But someday we're going to have a line item for that, to repair them or repave them or do something to trails, right? Because we've kind of been lax on that, I think. So that's the only reason I stayed tonight, just to kind of help you. This is for the future too, I think, what we're trying to accomplish here. So
Okay, so this is my fault. I apparently attached the wrong COG document.
There.
So this was what was supported and voted on by COG, was the 39,900 out of Q3 for that project.
and that's that new money that we can use for these kind of
Which one of the
projects. So.
funds? You're thinking of the mass transit? You're thinking of the 2219 fund? Is that what you're talking about?
This is a 17 fund, isn't it?
No, the yes, you're correct. It's the 17.
Yeah, the 19 fund is the one that just the county can use for transportations alone. This one we have to share with the city, right?
Correct.
Yes.
And then this is the one that was approved by COG also. And this is a city project.
But my question on that one is that coming out of corridor preservation, or is that coming out of the other monies?
This is all
Sales
coming
tax
out of the
money.
same Q3 fund. There is a request for preservation monies, but that's item B. So these are the two requests for Q3 funds.
And so the total amount, because since we didn't see it, what is the total between the two? Because
Theirs
I
is
see
315
there.
Yeah, theirs could be up to
355,000.
300,000, and ours is fairly small, but I'm trying to keep the county in the game of using this money where I think we're going to go farther with it, and unless we come up with a different project. The cities is quite a bit bigger, so
So that
Yeah.
it was
Because the
a
one
little
that-
less than 356,000 for both projects.
Okay, so-
And there's a little over $500,000 in that fund right now.
Actually, there's more than that.
Okay.
I think there's
I'll
more
show
than
it to
that,
you
too.
later. So basically, what we have out of that fund that we have to be paying for is you've got every yearly payment for the Young Street Bridge. That's $151,000. Okay, then you're going to take 356. You add the two of them together. Is that going to be less than what we're bringing in every year?
This was just this was the recommendation of the COG, so that's what I have to bring before you.
Okay, and then it says here the requested funding, include percent match on number 10, requested is 25% of the total project. Is that so you're saying the whole project is $1.259 million, and
But
who's
they're
coming?
only asking 315,171.
And so who's coming up with the rest?
They are. The city
The
is.
city is?
Correct.
Even though this is on
Sorry, I'll scroll.
county ground?
No, it is not.
Their project just continues down Young Street down to the county line. And then we can take it from there, Commissioner Fackrell, in the future.
Okay, so I see. This is the other side.
This is taking their
Highway
sidewalk
66.
and they're
Okay.
all the way down and
Yeah.
close to the
That
close
goes
to the
down
river
Island.
bridge. Yeah, close to the river
Close
bridge.
to Island
yeah.
Road, correct?
no, way past there, clear to the river bridge.
Oh, okay. All
Clear to
right.
the county line.
Okay.
And then we would have to do something from there, which would include a bridge project, but that, we could do something from there.
And so they're asking for the 315,000 then? Okay, which is 25% of the total cost.
Yes.
And that's basically not to purchase the land.
No, it's
Okay.
just a project.
This is the project.
Just construction costs, yeah. Ours will be closer to, I mean, we'll get our share down the road if we get these projects done and we have, you know, a trail clear up the top of our property.
Yeah.
Then that's what I'm looking at. You know, that's what I'm looking at.
3 mile long trail.
And have you noticed, the city builds a trail and we add to it, and now I want to add more. You commissioners want to add more. It seems to be working that way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
In our favor, so.
Yeah. Now, they only want an 8 foot, not a 10 foot like the rest of it is?
There's yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. I haven't seen their plans, so.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not sure why the 8 foot and the 10. Ours is 10 over here. The city trail that we've already connected to is 10, so I'm not sure about their 8 foot, but.
Okay.
Any other questions for him?
Brett, did you have any comments on the item number 12, the noxious weed board? I think that'll fall under your purview.
Yeah, the only comment I really have on that is I get a little bit of pressure every year on us spraying private property. And I only have a license, or my guys only have a license to spray right-of-ways, and that'll never change. Does that make sense? And our right-of-way, basically, right, is a 60-foot right-of-way. And I get calls on that. You know, I'll get 2 or 3 calls a year, not a bunch, but what I do is refer them to somebody private, say like Dee's Dairy, to do that. And what this board tries to do with me every time, and I haven't consulted with Garrett, but I remember consulting with your former attorney, with Jan, about it, and he says no, there's no way that our county employees are going to spray private property, and that's what they want me to do. When they, I mean, okay, we need a board to do it if we have control of it. Does that make sense? Because I mean, I had a guy on 66 more than once call me and say, it's state property or state right of way, I needed to spray my neighbor's property. Well, I can't just go do that. I'm not licensed to do it, nor am I ever going to be licensed to do it, or should we do it. I don't think the county has a right to go do that. Nobody wants a neighbor with weeds, but I don't see where we can. The county attorney was very adamant about that to me, and that was before Garrett. Me and Garrett really hasn't had this conversation, and maybe we should here right away. But that's just my feeling, commissioners, because I get asked about it every year about spraying private property, and maybe you'll have a different feeling than I have, but I don't see where we can ever get licensed to do that as far as a county employee to do that.
So if we do the board like you're suggesting, I mean, we're on 2 different subjects, but
Yeah.
for your benefit, if we do that board, would they have the ability or the authority then to tell a private landowner to do?
That's what they're really looking for. A lot of it they want. I mean, I can see their idea, but I'm just telling you as a county perspective, on my perspective, and they claim counties do that, but they have to have somebody licensed applicator to go ahead and spray a whole piece of property. Does that make sense?
Aren't they just trying to figure out a way to enforce that law? That's what I read.
They are, yeah, they are. But as far as us county employees doing it, I can't see us really doing it. It's 2 different licenses.
Yeah.
Can you see where I'm
I
coming
can
from
just see you
on
killing
it?
somebody's hay,
Yeah.
alfalfa, and we get stuck with it. So
Yeah, that's just, yeah,
I
we don't.
feel like you do.
I don't want to even go close to there. I want the guys to not even go close to that line. Does that make sense?
Because the wind blowing carries that stuff.
Temperature, wind, you know, I mean, if it's above 80 degrees, then it cannot be blowing. Carry in the temperature, so I have to be
Yeah, because
careful there.
this does say that the county weed board would abate it and then seek reimbursement.
Or we could use a third party.
I think
And
we'd be
enter the
better off
property
to-
without consent.
Yeah, and I don't think that that's something we want to do or should do. But, you know, we could, if it's a financial thing, we could set aside some money and people could apply for a grant for some funding that they could then choose from a handful of private companies, local, that we could help, you know, maybe it's a 50% match grant that the county offers to try to help with weed abatement or something.
Not a bad idea.
I mean, we could come up with something creative that helps people. I think this just puts us at odds with landowners, and I don't think that's a good idea. But anyway, we're on two different topics. I just wanted to bring that up while you were here, Brett.
I had a lot on my mind today because we've been up since 3 o'clock, but I actually was intended to get with Garrett today on this subject right here, just to give and to give him some thoughts on what Jan Ferris and me and him had more than one conversation about it, and he was adamant about it. Like, I don't want you doing it because it makes sense to me. But I do get asked. I do get asked a lot. And I'll always go out and look at their situation and say, look, this is what you can do. You can call D's, you can call whoever, and they'll be glad to do it for you, I'm sure. They're licensed to do that in that area. So I would just be careful on those kind of decisions, just to keep the county from, keep me out of trouble. That's the biggest thing. Keep me out of trouble. All right, appreciate you.
Do you want to go back to 9? I just want to be able to get some sleep.
Did we need to make a motion on that?
You're welcome to, or we can come back to it.
So the same with the one that he talked about on COG, or do we just come back?
Okay, number 9, F9. Come hit it as it comes down.
So I guess I have the opportunity to nominate somebody for planning commission from the Peterson Enterprise area. So just a little bit, and I've said this several times. I mean, Debbie Sessions has been on planning and zoning for a long time. Got a ton of knowledge. It's been a good benefit to the county, but also I believe that there's times when we need to kind of bring some new people in, new ideas, things like that. And so I talked to some people in Peterson and in Enterprise to kind of get some thoughts, people that they knew in that area, because I don't live over there, and got several people to tell me, kind of recommend the same person. So I went and met with this gentleman, and this is back in the early fall. And had a really good conversation with him. And as I've kind of thought about that, his name's Randy Watt. That's who I'd like to nominate to be in the Peterson Enterprise Planning and Zoning seat. He is retired police officer. He's lived in Enterprise for about 30 years, I'd say, 31 years. Really came across as very, wants the data. Isn't just, he wants to, see what's going on, hear both sides, where it's coming from, and really study out the subjects. And like I said, as I talked to him and talked to others, came very highly recommended. Seems to be very respected in the area. And like I said, I think Debbie's done a great job. I've known Debbie for over 30 years now, and I just think we need to get other people opportunity to learn the process, learn how things go, get involved in the community. These people, he has a desire, and he's pretty excited and hope that he would be able to fulfill that spot and give it a try. So that's who I'd like to nominate. I was told he didn't need to be here tonight, so I told him he didn't need to be here tonight. So.
Randy's a great guy.
Oh, okay. So you know Randy. Good. Everybody I've talked to is like holds him very highly. And I would assume if he gets appointed, I'm sure Debbie's not going anywhere. She'll be around, and she's, like I said, she's a wealth of knowledge. It's not anything. It's just, I think people want to serve and give people an opportunity. So.
W-A-T-T?
W-A-T-T, yes.
So how do we, I've never done one of these.
So it's just, we just vote on it. It's a resolution.
I haven't from here.
It'd be resolution CR 25-10, appointing, here, I can make the motion if you want. Mr. Chair, I move we approve resolution CR 25-10, appointing Randy Watt as the planning commissioner representing the Peterson Enterprise areas.
Effective March 1st.
That's not right.
Yeah, it's in the bylaws, so that happens automatically.
Okay, looking for a second?
Second.
Okay.
Second.
Oh, right, we beat you to it, sorry.
Have a motion from Commissioner Newton and a second from Commissioner Blocker. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Debbie. You are a wealth of knowledge, and I know there's going to be a few people crying over this. One sitting by you.
I assume she'll still be sitting in that chair. That's Debbie's chair. So,
Well, yeah, that's where she gets her ice cream.
right? I didn't see ice cream tonight.
She had it.
Did she? Okay, I saw the fries.
Okay, F9, Honorable Raylene,
10.
Maybe 10.
or 10, sorry.
I am not ready to nominate anyone yet. I've been in discussion with Matt Bishop, and I've had 2 other applicants. Matt needed a couple more days to get back to me,
Okay,
so I'm not ready.
we will postpone that then to a later date.
We don't need an
And
official
do we need to
postponement.
do anything there? Okay.
I
all right.
posted it on both consent agenda as a possible open seat, and then also on this just in case she was ready.
Okay, all right. Thank you, and thanks for taking it seriously and checking everyone out. I appreciate it. Kate,
This is the language that Garrett and I went through for that interlocal match for the grant funds for Mountain Green Fire. As it is technically being, we would be the depositor and then sending those funds over. Just wanted to make sure, like we did with MGSID, that we were held harmless, that we weren't going to be liable for if the funds were clawed back for any reason, et cetera. So that's what this agreement is for. They received a $17,000 grant from Phillips 66. Them receiving that grant and us receiving the funds on their behalf does not in any way make it to where we cannot apply for those grants immediately and or in future, but just wanted something that held us harmless from liability or clawback. Technically, the funds that they're getting will be short $250 because the company that Phillips 66 uses for their grant withholds 15% up to $250. So the exact amount will be the $16,750 that will actually be deposited to us and then turned over to Mountain Green Fire Protection District. But one, we have not received the funds yet, and 2, I wouldn't issue them the funds until this is fully executed by both us and the board of the Mountain Green Protection District. Just like we did with MGSID. We sat on the money until it was fully executed. So. Yes. Oh, okay. Correction, I don't think that was in there when I sent it to you, so correction to the signature block should be Mountain Green Fire Protection District Board member, not fire improvement.
okay, any questions for Kate? No? Okay, I'll look for a motion then.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve ordinance CR 25-09, an interlocal pass-through grant agreement with Mountain Green Fire Protection District.
Just a correction, it's a
Wait,
resolution,
wait.
not an ordinance.
What's that?
Resolution.
You had stated
Oh.
ordinance, and it is a resolution.
Oh, I'm sorry. Should I just start over? Mr. Chair, I move that we approve resolution CR 25-09, an interlocal pass-through grant agreement with Mountain Green Fire Protection District.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Nickerson and a second by Commissioner Fackrell. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion passes.
The next one is the ordinance that we put forth at the end of, I believe it was November. And this has come back with, in addition, the changes that were made, which I'm obviously hearing comment that other changes need to be made, but they did submit names. And these are the names that were submitted by the Conservation Board. That's it. So it sounds like we need to make some changes.
Well, in hearing Brett's comments, and even if he tried to grab me today, it probably would have been hard because I was pretty busy, and so. But I do think Section 5 does present some of those difficulties that he's talking about, especially, I know Morgan County, there's just a good feeling of privacy, property rights, things like that, and this does put us at odds with our residents if, they don't take action within 5 business days. Then the county may, after reasonable notification, enter the property without consent. I think that that's always a question, maybe something that could be challenged as well. I'm just thinking Fourth Amendment, usually it's in the criminal context of search warrants and things like that, but people have a right to security in their property without unreasonable search and seizure. And so I do think us going in, it's similar to, and I haven't thought about this a lot, but it is similar to our well protection ordinance where we kind of shift the burden and the county has to take in that enforcement mechanism, which I guess that's something that you can discuss. Other weed boards are doing this and there's legislation that's passed, but as an ordinance, it is a legislative decision. So I don't know, that's something that might be curbed a little bit.
And they are aware that this could be postponed to a future meeting, especially now that we put names in.
And that would be my
Not very
request, just so I can talk to Brett more about it and think about how it would be applied more in practicality.
And as this is an ordinance that's not a land use ordinance, it's not like it cost us anything to have the public hearing. Still happy to open it for public hearing, and also happy if we want to postpone it to March 4 to have a public hearing at that time as well.
Okay.
And I think you can have it both days, just in case someone came specifically to address the public hearing today.
Okay.
There was one other item I was concerned about, in section 2.
Okay.
First off, we need to probably renumber this because there's a section 2 ABCD and then a second ABCD under section 2. But under the second section, it talks about the Weed Control Board's powers and duties, and B is direct the efforts of the county weed control supervisor. I don't know of any other advisory board that actually directs staff, our county staff, to do something. So I just think we need to reword that so it's not, they don't feel like they have the authority to tell Brett or the public works staff, you will go do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, because they have Joel on the board.
Correct.
And so, we don't want him to be told, no, you're going to do that.
I mean, they can give ideas, and they're an advisory board. They don't get to say, you will go do whatever. Anyway, I think we just...
Yeah, we did
Just
talk about
they
that in
recommend-
our first reading, but it sounds like it needs further definition or redaction. Are you...
It's a good start.
Do we have anything for,
I think those Smoky Dillards
so,
still...
so I have a witness. I specifically said, so the commission is open to appointments as long as they're not a Thurston or a Wardell. And they're like, serious?
said-
And I was like, no. I was like, get rid of Kevin. I just thought Kevin was used to me by then, but apparently not. But so that was a question brought up on Smokey is, they're like, he would 1000% attend all the meetings. They're just not sure how long he'll stay on the board. So then adding Brad Bowman as an alternate And again, this is just the originating weed control board. You can replace these at any time by resolution. But so just because this is the first hearing with these names, are there any concerns with, I mean,
We're all good.
Yes, there are concerns.
okay,
One of them is I think we need to have 5 members on the board if we're going to do it. It says between 3 and 5 members, and I think we ought to have 5.
but that is 5 votes with an alternate.
Well-
It's not adding the number of
No, they're supposed to be according to the code. It was, they had to have between 3 and 5, or a minimum of that. And you had to have 2 farmers or ranchers.
Yep.
And then you had to have individuals, and it could not be the commissioners. They could not be a member of the board.
This is exactly what was presented before.
Anyway, I'd like to postpone it.
And I spelled Nickerson wrong, so we're doing great. Nickeron.
Nicaron.
I've been called a lot of things.
I mean, it's like a
And-
Thurston.
And then there's a separation also within this code that you were, ordinance, is that you were saying that the weed control supervisor was not part of the board. He was the person that they would go to take care of the things. So you need to review that. I'm just mentioning that. Okay.
Okay, so postpone, we're gonna look at section 5, section 2B, correction to Commissioner Nickerson's name. And then concern over
Just the composition of the board.
composition of the board. Composition. Okay, did you wanna hear public comment, if any?
Sure. Is there anyone here that came to publicly comment on that?
You could
Lilia?
just open the
Open
public
the public
hearing.
hearing for
Mr.
that.
Chair, I'll make a motion, we open the public hearing for item number 12, ordinance CO 25-05.
I second it.
Have a motion by Commissioner Newton and a second by Commissioner Blocker. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, moving to public hearing. Is there anyone here that would like to speak about the weed control board?
Tina, you are not burning that fan. Oh, that's all I'm saying.
Oh,
Okay, can I have a motion to go out?
Have a motion to adjourn the public hearing and reconvene the public meeting.
Second.
Have a motion by Commissioner Newton and a second by Commissioner Fackrell. All in favor?
aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
So postponing to March 4th with those notes. So then back to 13 Alpha. This is the Q3 request, and there are 2. COG did approve both. I just need to get back up to the, oh, I opened the wrong one again. Okay, doing great.
So we need 2 separate motions then,
You got
after we
13A
discuss
and
the second one?
I believe it could be made in one. You're happy, I'm more than happy for you to make it.
The second one, 13B, is a corridor preservation.
Correct, but
So
we're still on 13.
I've got some questions on that, so.
13A or 13?
Is there any more
B.
questions on 13A?
No.
Okay,
don't
then
have-
let's go to 13B, Kate.
Did you want to make a motion on A since it's a different fund, or did you want to hear it all and then do it all at once?
Say separate.
So should we make a motion on A?
Sure, if that's how you feel, I'm
No,
I'm
yeah,
good
you
with
say-
it.
Oh, I thought you meant A since A had 2 applications, but it was one recommendation of the COG. Sorry, I misunderstood
I was
the
just asking
question.
mine if you was.
No, that's all right. Let's make a motion on A. Keep it separate.
I move that we accept the COG recommendation of using the 22 or the 17 fund for these projects recommended by the COG, which are the trails and the, what was it?
Young Street Bridge.
Run Street.
Or not Bridge, Young Street Improvements West.
Okay. So for that, Young Street Bridge, she said it.
Young Street Improvements West and the Fairgrounds Trail.
I'll second.
That was the motion. so-
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Fackrell and a second from Commissioner Nickerson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Okay, the recommendation.
13B.
The recommendation of COG was, and this is for corridor preservation funds. This was actually approved at the November 18th, 2024 COG meeting, and then restated again on the February 10th, 2025 meeting. And this is for purchase of corridor. It's UDOT property along 400 East. The best definition I can give you is actually the map. Let me rotate it. So, there, that's the best way. So it's, so right now we have this, but we're purchasing this extension so that at some point, if Clark's wanted to formalize this road, there's two accesses, one off 400 East and then one off
And who's that purchased from?
from
Or-
UDOT. And they already have the,
Wow, that's an expensive piece of ground.
so it's this.
So how much was it? Because they didn't.
400.
Let me get,
Well, we
they
can't.
they haven't had a dollar amount yet.
Yeah.
Correct. Oh, oops, I rotated that.
So my question, if I may, is how much do we have in the corridor preservation fund currently, including the balance? Because I don't think that's enough.
Oh, there is.
Yeah, but we can only use up to 50% of it.
They better not come to 400,000 though.
Right?
Right?
I think
That's right.
mean-
It should be maybe 50.
UDOT paid 250,000 for the ground in Mountain Green per acre. This is less than an acre. This better not be more than 200,000.
Who set the 400 marker?
I believe the city did because they're the ones that were negotiating with UDOT, but it was obviously in closed session. And they don't have a final dollar amount yet.
And they're, so I don't know if I understand how COG works then. Are they part of COG?
UDOT?
No, the city.
Yes. The
So
city
this is just a
school-
fund for the both county and the city.
Yes, and
Okay.
and technically, school district has a vote. They've never presented a project except for the Young Street Bridge. They were a supporter of.
So if they know how much money's in there and they're making, and they're doing the, I'm just wondering how they would have come up with that figure.
Well,
If you can only use half of it,
yeah, you can only use half of it.
and there's
according
only
to-
500,
There's
that's
572.
250.
They said 592.
572, 241 is what is currently in it.
Okay, so then
So-
if you divide that by 2, 400 still doesn't fit in that.
Only 200 and
200.
But here they put
Estimated
200,000 for it, but then
Right.
it says up to 400.
up to 400, but we can't go up to 400. Max we could go is half of what is currently in the budget.
We could approve it, I guess, up to 250 and see.
So they were not sure. And correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been a minute. I've been in a lot of meetings. The reason they were asking for the full 400, knowing that it was above the 50, is because they didn't think it would get done this year.
Yeah, they had made note that UDOT's a little slow and they doubt it'll happen this year.
Okay. The only problem is if we do it now, that means there's 0 projects for another full year. Okay, in corridor preservation, that's all they can do. And so the following year, we can come up with another half. And that's the only way we can do it.
Well, assuming it's that high.
Yeah, assuming it's that high.
Well,
Not high, they should
don't we
buy
think
it.
we
That's
should,
ridiculous.
don't you think it would be don't you think it'd be prudent to have a price before we play our hand? We're gonna approve this up to 400.
UDOT's watching right now. All right, it's 256,000.
I would suggest that we talk to Region 1, UDOT, and find out how much it is. If the city hasn't done it yet, then
They're
they
they're
need
waiting
to.
on UDOT for an amount.
I was gonna say, we shouldn't be reaching out to UDOT on that. This is
Right,
between
let
the
the
city and
city do it.
UDOT. They need to negotiate that.
Right.
The best we could do, in my opinion, is to approve what funds are available, which would be up to half of what's there. And if they need more, they'd have to come back and we'd have to discuss that, I guess.
Okay, and then the other question I have is on some of these other projects that you've got here that COG has discussed, is those were, hold on.
Are you talking about C?
I'm talking about,
Some of the other projects.
the other projects that were in our packet
Okay.
that COG wants to,
No, I think I put the wrong stuff
that
in there.
one, not that one.
you got a
It's,
bunch of
Creek,
stuff.
yeah.
like Deep Creek Road, okay?
Couple
Deep Creek Road, we have, we're gonna put that in, and then one of the requirements, any kind of a road, if we're gonna widen it or anything like that, we have to follow the new state laws, which are to include a trail. And which means we may have to buy up some ground. So do we have enough to do that if you want to do a Deep Creek project this year?
I think these were last year's, and I just
They
put
haven't
the
been
wrong
done.
ones in the project.
Okay, I'm just saying, it says to do a safer road, but according to the code that was passed last year, is every project that is widening a project has to be, has to include a trail on it. Yeah, I'll bring it to you next time. I don't have it with me.
Yeah, I'd like to
Yeah,
see
I'd like
that.
to see that too.
Okay, I'll get it. Not a problem.
Another unfounded
That is
mandate.
my error, because yeah, I put the wrong.
They actually are. It was an HB, well, heck, I'll look for it. Wait, and I'll
I
wait.
don't know, where did Carrie go? Okay, is there, somebody would like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve item 13B, corridor preservation funds for the purchase of property for 400 East in Morgan City for dollar amount up to $250,000.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Newton and a second by Commissioner Nickerson. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay.
The bill from last year was HB 449, Public Safety and Trails. I said
HB
the bill,
449.
HB 449 from 2024.
Okay, on 13C. So in the RPO, which is part of COG, so COG is 2 meetings. We have a working group meeting and a regular meeting, and once a quarter there is an RPO, Rural Planning Organization. That's what WFRC, that's the list that is compiled by the city and the county, and if they have an opinion, the school district, for us to work on with UDOT. I put this in the, it helps if I put it on the dang screen. I also printed a copy because I figured it would get scribbled on. I'm personally a scribbler. So these are the projects that we are telling WFRC are our priorities. The top of which was the State Street Corridor Study, which was for the city. State Road 66 Trail, widened road for bicycles from the county, and the Mountain Green area improvements from the county. And then this is the draft project list. Being that I have 2 new commissioners for sure on COG, I wasn't sure if this was still the county's priority list for WFRC to work on as far as transportation. So I just wanted to get it out there. I'm not assuming that we'll have necessarily any action items on it tonight, because I know it's a lot to digest, but I just wanted it to get in front of you.
Can you tell me what the ID means?
That's something with UDOT.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
check mark means it's ready to go, or what does that mean?
It means it needs additional planning. No, it means it's done. Most of these have been on there, as you can, I know the year is part of the UDOT ID, but it was, a lot of this was covered in the Safe Streets for All, study that WFRC did last year. So those studies are already done. Like, I know the old Trappers, not old
Where's the
Trappers.
old Trappers Loop Road? That's not even in our county, is it?
It's right
Yeah, it
next
is.
to Trapper or Rollins Ranch. It goes that dirt road that goes right up there.
Oh.
It's the historical.
But it's a trail that we can't use?
Can't use it, right?
Snow
It was
Basin owns
vacated as a
some of
public
that.
road when they built the new Trappers Loop.
Yeah.
I don't know who
But
bought
yeah,
Rollins'
Weaver County
portion.
did not. It's just our county that
That vacated it.
did. Yeah, that vacated it. So there is a trail you can go up onto from Weaver County up to the edge of Morgan County. And at the gate, you turn around and go back.
So I would like to come back to this, because this is what we are having WFRC RPO focus on as our plan. And again, I don't think anyone can absorb this in a one weekend. So, just wanted to get it on your plate. Is it okay if we postpone that to
Postpone
another
it.
meeting? And then one of my favorites is the GOEO grants. So we get $200,000 from the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity through a rural grant every year, and the state actually came and met with us in Q4 of last year, and they absolutely love how Morgan County does their grants, and because other counties, like I know Cache County, they take the whole amount and they put it into an economic development director. We have a very, very active board in Morgan County for our Community and Economic Opportunity Board. And they're the ones that go out and do the small business grants in the spring. So we had allocated this year in the budget to do $75,000 in grants. We normally have 6 to 8 grant applicants. Last year we had 18. This year we had 29. And the paring down is kind of hard. The beauty was they did have funds left over from last year that were earmarked for the dome project. They had $36,000 left. So their ask this year to the commission is $102,500 to the businesses above for the small business growth grants. So the descriptions so these grants have to grow the business, whether it's through advertising, additional offerings of product. It has to grow the sales tax revenue essentially of those businesses. We had a lot of requests for advertising. So we're looking at that. There's also additional $50,000 grant that we're looking at in the fall that's going to focus more on advertising. So we're going to high focus on that after seeing that as a constant request. But the Community and Economic Opportunity Board, this is what they are asking the commission to come out of that grant, is these 19 businesses receiving those dollar allotments. And then I'll get to the barrier study one second if there's any questions.
I have one question. I see new ones on there, which is great. Why do we have over and over again the same ones?
Because they've been successful. There's some that have applied again that we denied because they either did not follow through on the intent of the grant from a previous grant, or we didn't see the ROI in their previous grant. But some of them, we've seen astronomical growth in their sales. And so that's why they tend to rate higher, because they're known to, one, pitch in, so it's not just like we're funding their whole project. Like I know Bingham's, that's it's a down payment on a vehicle, but that vehicle is going to expand his number of bomb vending machines, which will add 3 more employees. So he wasn't asking for a whole van, he was asking for a down payment.
One thing with that one brings in a lot of sales tax. A lot of sales tax also.
So we actually did deny, or the Community and Economic Opportunity Board did deny several this year, just because of
Do the weight or do the athletic places bring in
a lot. They
the
were
sales
actually,
tax?
they, business growth and employment.
But do they bring in any sales tax at all? Do you know?
We didn't make that a requirement. I think we took
I
that
don't think they do
out.
because you don't
think
charge sales
they
tax
do.
on services, right?
I can't imagine they do.
And then you've also got some others there that, tools for road projects that's gonna improve business, help with maybe people. What else does it bring in?
Are you talking about Skinny Tea?
Yeah.
So right now, we don't have anywhere that will spray lines. We have to get outside of Morgan County to get a company that'll spray road lines, and that's what he's buying. He saw the need that we don't have that, and so he's adding that service.
Okay. So what about the one that is, Deb Spicy Pie, where that one, we gave him some money last year.
We did
and-
not.
Or maybe 2 years ago. Yeah, either way, we gave them some money within the last 2 years, grants. What have they done with it?
I don't know. I was not here 2 years ago. The board, so she asked for advertising dollars. She asked for dollars for wage increases, which we don't allow. She asked for dollars for a kitchen expansion, and she asked for dollars for, a addition to her grill hood system, and that's what they approved was the grill hood system.
So, within all of this, I know this was something we were discussing last year, is that we were going to make it to where they have to come in and prove with receipts.
Yes.
Everything.
So they'll actually have to sign a contract now.
Good. And Sandstone Psychology?
And where does this money all come from?
The Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity grant.
It's a grant.
Yeah, it's a grant.
It's a state grant.
And we're one of the premier counties that is doing things like this.
Yeah.
At least that's what the state was telling me.
So every rural county, so obviously not all of them, get $200,000 for economic growth. And like I said, most counties are using this money just to fund an economic development director. We're actually using it to invest and grow the businesses that already have like you have to have been in business for over a year. This is not a recovery grant. You have to show increased revenue over years. It's very well thought out, and the governor's office loves it. They sent their entire team down here last year, and we met over at Young's to explain to them our model. Someone had a question about Sandstone.
Yeah, Sandstone.
So Sandstone Psychology, they are going to do they wanted to send someone to EMDR training. So that's the training. I think that was $500. And then being that they're new, they wanted money in signage for the front of their building and then local advertising. All the advertising has to be either local or, we weren't approving any billboards, but we did pay, I think one of the ones in here for Smokin' Boxcar was that little highway sign, like when it says food, and but I think that was $1,800 just for that.
With Morgan Valley Crafts now, they're under new ownership.
So we struggled on that one. They are under new ownership, but the lady that owns it now has worked there for 8 years and essentially managed it. So she wants to focus more on being a print service. So you can print now. They've already bought $40,000 worth of new printers to do blueprints, so that you don't have to go down the canyon to go get that done. So But because they spent all that money on printers, they didn't have the money yet to pay for the software for the printers. So they can still use the printers, but they don't have the high-tech software. And we're like, well, if you've already invested $40K just in printers, then that's why they said, well, I think we can support the software because to be able, especially for the county, to be able to print Mylars and plats and blueprints and not have to go down the canyon, that's huge. I did offer her our surplus plotter, but she'd already bought one, so.
So what about the Mountain Music Academy?
So-
Soundproofing,
They, I guess, rent a space up at,
that's my question.
and we checked on their lease agreement and lease improvements and if they would get that and how long their lease was, which I think they are on 5 more year lease. But it's essentially not just it's soundproofing for recordings. So it's a space that they can actually take with them if ever their lease expires. But it also is they asked for monies to expand their space, which I don't think we approved enough for them to do that because they wanted to do, instead of just one-on-one lessons, they wanted to do like a community band and I don't know, like bigger groups than just a one-on-one. But because we've never had them before and they just hit, I think, 15 months, we thought we'd start
Yeah, I was gonna
small.
say, they did apply last year.
But we denied
re-
them
We
'cause
denied them, yeah.
They hadn't been in business for a
Hadn't
year.
been in business. My biggest worry is this soundproofing a space, for space improvements. Is that something that the ownership of the building
Yep, we checked with them.
is
Or,
going
well,
to
Andrew Willis checked
just
with
take
them.
it away if they, or is she gonna, or are they going to
They
be
will
able to
take it with them.
Okay. Because that's a lot.
Yep.
And then I noticed that we had another one for 9 lines.
Yep.
And we helped them with a grant last year of that same amount for the same item. So
It's-
what's this one gonna do?
So the one last year was for tools to hire 2 more people. This is a special tool that does something with plane wings. I have the full application here, but I can't show their fiscal numbers. Yeah.
Okay. Just wondering how that one will help.
I guess
Any other questions?
we do get personal property tax off of these items too, so.
Only if they're over
if it's
25,000.
Well, if the sum is over 25,000,
sum.
and certainly most of these have assets exceeding that.
9-line does.
Yeah.
Okay, do we need a motion on this then?
And then that barrier, not the barrier, but the one down at the bottom, the 6260.
That's on a separate line.
It's 14B.
I know, but
I'm
is-
happy to
is
discuss
that
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
'Cause it's
So,
all-
so we created Community and Economic Opportunity Board, when they did their budget, they wanted to set aside monies that specifically spoke to what the barriers are in our community that are preventing our businesses from growing or expanding. So they allocated $15,000 for remediating barriers. The number one barrier we have found, shockingly, is the health department. And so the health department had shut down their Bingham's Custom Meats sandwich production. The whole purpose of it, in talking to Nathan Bingham, was he needed someone with clean hands that was always in the front that could help customers as they come in, but he can't just have someone that stands there all day. He can't justify that payroll. So he created his sandwiches so that as people came in, they could also make sandwiches and sell that. And that was working very, very well, but then they got so good at them that they were getting a lot of press. And even though the health department had previously come in and approved it, once they got all this you know, I think they got like sandwich of the year or something like that in the valley or something, I don't remember. But the health department came back in, different inspector, and shut down their sandwich production because they wanted them to have a separate hand washing sink. So in order to have a separate, like the three sink, a separate mop sink, and a separate hand washing sink. I don't know if you've ever been in Bingham's. Not a lot of space up front. So in order to do that, he has to replumb, and he's got to move around a bunch of things in order to make that happen. Plus, they have to keep a secondary fridge system so that the sandwich product is nowhere near like that front case of like steaks and raw bacon and stuff like that. So in order to get them back to selling their sandwiches, which they said was bringing in about $60,000 to $80,000 a year in revenue, they needed all these additions just to pass the inspection. So we thought that was an excellent use of barrier study funds, was to remediate this hand wash sink issue so that they could go back to $40,000 to $80,000 in sandwich revenue a year.
And growing.
And grow, yeah. So then that's a different line item in their budget. So there's $15,000. We haven't spent anything. They haven't spent anything out of that. So this would be the first allocation out of that.
So are we going to do the barrier study or not?
So the barrier study, so we looked at doing an actual study, but it looked like, I know I'm open mic, but it looked like every government study. It's going to cost you $60,000 to find out what your people that do this every day could probably just tell you for free. So we, instead of assigning the funds to actually have a third party come in and do a study, we're actually doing work groups with the local businesses of what is preventing you from being licensed legally, business that we know is operating legally, what's your barrier, or or we just met with the school district, as they're expanding their CT program, like what are you seeing that there is this need, and it helped us communicate with WPR that the school district is interested in, when they do their CT program, of having a hospitality class, and can they have interns, and so we're putting those community groups together. So we found that this was a better use of money than paying Zions Bank another astronomical amount of money to do a study that I can turn to the person in the coffee shop and go, hey, why can't you grow your business? Well, I need, $6,000 more to buy this spray equipment so I can paint lines on road, and capital's not easy to, so that's essentially what they chose to do with the monies instead.
I think it's a great idea.
I think it's great too. It's obviously not what we originally planned on, but if we can give $62.60 to Bingham's and they can turn an $80,000 profit and then rehire the 2 people they had to lay off when they had to get rid of the sandwiches, I mean, that's a no-brainer numerically.
Okay. I'll look for a motion then. Not everybody at once.
I've been trying to stay away from making them today.
I can tell. But I do need some.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I'll move that we approve the Community and Economic Opportunity Grant funds for 19 Morgan County businesses from the the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity Grant for fiscal year 2025, as well as the funds for one business from the barrier study funds.
I'll second it.
Okay, I would motion for Commissioner Newton, a second for Commissioner Fackrell. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay. You did 2 meetings ago, you did a letter of support for, I forgot.
Beehive?
Not Beehive.
It wasn't Beehive. It was Liberty.
It was Liberty.
So Beehive now wants one. I said I would ask, but I did also tell them we don't exactly have the best relationship. So I will leave it up to the commission.
I wouldn't give them one personally.
When they finish their project, we'd be happy to give them one.
They couldn't say they finished it on time.
I
No,
moved to deny it.
they couldn't.
I don't know their history. I use them.
So-
They've been great.
So I look
Quick
into that now.
backstory in during COVID,
Well, you tell that, I'm gonna take them.
okay, the federal government provided some COVID relief funding. It was, we had what, 2 million approximately, 2 point something million.
2.3 million.
It was CARES Act, sorry, CARES Act money. The CARES Act money could be used for infrastructure, and so we dedicated 100,000 to Liberty, and
We gave them $514,000.
yeah,
For broadband
Plus,
expansion.
plus I thought we gave them
Beehive?
another
Beehive.
140.
We kind of did it last second because we were told that the funds had to be used by December 31st. So we made that decision the very end of December, I mean, between Christmas and New Year's. And then 3 days after we made the decision to give them that funding, the federal government extended the deadline a whole year. Had we known that in the time, we probably would have done things a little differently, but regardless, we provided funding to them with the agreement that they were going to run fiber from, well, the entire length of Morgan Valley Drive, from Peterson to Porterville. And they were supposed to have that completed within about a 18-month period. They were having trouble just getting the materials. The wire was difficult to source during that time period. This would have been into 2020, right?
2020 is when you guys approved it.
Yeah.
And then
And it was supposed to be
2021.
done by 2021,
Yeah, the end of
midway through 2021, and they're still not completed. So that's kind of the long story, or the
And
not
si-
long story, the
since
short
then-
version of it.
Since
I was
then,
gonna
we've
say,
had
that's not the
Liberty
long one.
Broadband and we had All West that have come in and completed their projects. And
Both of which did theirs under time and under budget.
time, that's right.
Nice.
So
So
Okay, I'll look for a motion then.
I move to deny the request.
You'd have to speak up.
I say I move to deny the request for Beehive Broadband.
Any seconds?
I'll second that.
Have a motion by Commissioner Fackrell and a second by Commissioner Newton. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay,
I'm happy to postpone number 16.
that's great.
Okay.
Can you send us out the item? Oh, you don't.
They
have
didn't
it.
give me,
Okay,
yeah.
then that's why we didn't have it.
Okay, so I'll look for a motion on our closed session then. Pardon? Yes.
Mr. Chair, I move that we move into closed session to hear a report.
Well,
Or just the bottom part,
yeah, just the bottom
sorry.
discussion.
For discussion of character, professional competence, and physical or mental health of an individual. And strategy session discuss the purchase, exchange, or lease of real property, including any form of water right or water shares.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Nickerson and a second by Commissioner Blocker. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?